What's going on, guys? Welcome back here to another installment of Honest and Uneducated, the show where we talk about anything from movies and movie news, video games, comics books, collectibles, just all sorts of fun stuff like that. And it's been a big week in collectibles. I mean, it's been a big week in general. And like, we had Marvel drop that huge sizzle reel of stuff, getting everybody excited for upcoming things. Like, first look at Eternals was in there. That was great. Warner Brothers has officially announced that they are indeed looking for a Black Superman. So we're going to talk about that here in just a moment. But joining me today to talk about all this wonderful stuff here is none other than Rick Metz himself. How you doing today, Rick?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. You look kind of stoic right now.
Stoic?
I always try to have was stoic.
When you switch the camera to me, I always try to have like an expression or like a look or something. I don't know.
I feel that.
Yeah.
Keep things interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
We also have another interesting, an interesting face here to say the least as well. I don't know if that was supposed to be like a main thing for me. I was just trying to segue into that, and I couldn't really come up. It was interesting enough.
Not sure how to take that.
We got John Knight here.
I've been called worse, so I'll take interesting.
Hey, I'd rather be called, yeah, he looks interesting than he looks like shit.
Yeah. No, I'm good. I was outside today for a little while. I think I may have got my face sunburned a little bit. I don't know if that's showing up or not. But yeah, lots of news release coming out of Sideshow this week with their Star Wars week going on, May the 4th celebration.
There was tons of stuff. Mr. Freeze is joining us here today too.
Yeah.
Oh God, is he back already?
Time to
Oh
Time
man.
to kill.
Yeah, I was excited. You know, I got like, I don't know, 25 or 30 bucks in like reward codes from Sideshow during their various programs this week. And I was doing super well. I saw on a message board that they said they got $83 in rewards codes from Sideshow things this week. So I must have missed something along the way, but
you guys were sharing lots of codes. Look at that holographic Iron Man, by the way. That's crazy. I sent that over Discord.
Yeah, that was nice. I saw that. That was very nice.
Yeah, but
supposedly that holographic Iron Man is most people's least favorite Iron Man. That and Neon Tech, the Neon Tech series.
It's not die cast, I wouldn't imagine, obviously, with the clear plastic. The Neon Tech is just like Tron Iron Man.
Yeah,
basically.
We would be remiss to not look over some of these announcements and cover them here. Like we got the Clone Wars Obi-Wan and Anakin. Those were pretty cool. I mean, I told you guys, like, I wish I was like more of an actual fan of the animated like show. I like the show; it's a good show, but I've never been the biggest fan of the character models.
That's how I feel.
Like, and I was telling on stream, we had Dion join us here, who I got my Batman figure from.
That was cool.
My Hot Toys BVS Batman and the Justice League Armored or Tactical Batman rather. But I was telling him and Rick the most like thing that would worry me most about like these figures, like even though they're like super cool looking, they're super well done. Like they'd be great for any fans of like the animated series. Like these would be awesome. But Sideshow hasn't announced that they're doing like this entire line. So like, what if they never make any other ones of these, and you just have like these two like, albeit cool Clone Wars figures, but it's like if that's all you get, it'd be kind of disappointing in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So, but they have tons of good stuff. Did you end up picking anything up, John?
No, I didn't purchase anything. I have some codes that are expiring this week, so I'm sure I'll be putting some orders in this week. But I was surprised that they didn't have like. I thought maybe there would be even some better sales going on. I really didn't see too much for sale. Like I remember back on their birthday week, I picked up or I payment planned a Captain Marvel figure because they had it was like free shipping plus like 15% or 20% off the figure. So that was a really good deal. I didn't see a lot of sales. Like they were giving out a lot of codes and reward codes and stuff, and they were giving away a lot of figures for prizes, but I didn't see any actual like sales on the current figures.
Right. There's while we're here, we might as well.
Are you saying like when we're talking about the animated show, like you said you're not as big of a fan of the animated, you're talking about like
The
Like the
CG one.
CGI Clone Wars show, right?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
But
This
but
one.
isn't that the line that you started collecting? Like, didn't you, like, start picking up, like, the Ahsokas and stuff from that? Or are you picking up the prequel figures?
There's a caveat to it because I can show you the perfect example actually just on this very page. The Hot Toys is doing real likenesses for their Clone Wars figures.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
cool.
So
So,
you're
I'm getting those. I'm primarily sticking to the Clone Wars era.
just that time frame, not
Yeah.
necessarily that particular show or movie,
Yeah,
but
not the show.
okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah, because I was even saying on stream, like, the show's good, so don't at me in the comments about the Clone Wars because I know everybody loves freaking Clone Wars. I like the Clone Wars. It's a good show. There's a lot of episodes, though, that were, like, not very good. Like, the first episode is terrible. I don't care what you say. The writing is so bad in that episode. And, like, but the second episode's great with Plo Koon. Like, that was a good episode. He's, like, stuck in space, and Ahsoka and Anakin go get him, whatever. But there's just a lot of filler stuff in that and with Rebels. Like, there was a lot of filler stuff.
Yeah, for
And, like,
sure.
it literally, it's true filler where, like, like, is people confused what filler is? Like, is if something is there that doesn't necessarily thrust the overall, like, overarching story and the main plot line, that doesn't necessarily mean it's filler as long as there's something there that's building, like, characters up. But there's so many episodes in, like, Rebels and that where they are just offshoot things. There's no character development. Like, it's like a Scooby-Doo, like, Monster of the Week kinda thing, it's like
Yeah.
where it's just you
Yeah.
could delete the episode and you don't lose anything, you don't
Yeah,
lose any
wouldn't take
character.
anything away.
Yeah,
The
exactly. That's
Separatists are
filler.
trying to take over another planet yet again, and the rebels have to stop them. Like, it happens 100 times. I'm
Yeah,
only on season 2, and it's happened, like, 5 or 6 times already.
right, and, like, it have nothing to do with anything, like, it's just like it's there, and it's
Those
like,
damn
That's
separatists.
filler." But, yeah, so, like, I've focused on the Clone Wars era specifically just because it's, like, mainly because I can kinda cheat. Like, I can get things that aren't necessarily directly associated with the Clone Wars era because it's, like, in such a particular point of time to where I can kind of expand it out. Like,
Yeah.
with, like, I got Vader, for instance. He's not technically in the Clone Wars era, but it is Anakin, and then if you wanna since there's so much carryover into Rebels, like, that era, like, Vader was in that show. So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? You get a lot I can spend more of my money,
Right.
It's pretty much what it
You
is.
you can
Okay.
focus when you need to, but if you feel like going outside of it, you can make those connections that
Mhm.
make it reasonable.
Yeah,
No,
because
that
in
makes
the end,
sense.
it's all Star Wars.
When you first started getting Hot Toys and you first started talking about it, and you said you thought you were gonna focus on Clone Wars, I immediately thought you meant, like, the animated TV show. Like, I thought that's what you were going for, because, like, that Obi-Wan that you showed me, that he doesn't wear that armor in the he only wears that armor, that look in the animated show, right? He didn't
Yeah.
have that
Mhm.
look in the actual movies anywhere, did he? I don't recall him having that
No.
look. Okay,
Correct.
yeah,
That's
that's his
explicitly a, Clone Wars thing.
yeah, that's okay. That's him as a commander in the army fighting the war. Okay, cool.
Yeah, which
That
is
makes
why,
sense. Alright.
like, him in particular, that's one of the reasons I really, really want that figure because not to mention, I'm gonna bring this up every time until I get these figures, like, Hot Toys, like, we still be waiting on, like, all this cool Clone Wars era stuff, like, I need this droid, I need this freaking R5 here, I need Kit Fisto, I really need this Padme, alright? Like, this Padme and this Obi-Wan, been waiting on it since 2019 at this point, like, we need to get this going. Because like now I'm gonna have this Obi-Wan and or I'm not gonna have the Obi-Wan rather, and then I'm gonna get this Anakin, and he's just gonna be there by himself, man. He's just gonna be there by
Well,
himself.
and the biggest news kind of for Clone Wars era this week was Sideshow's reissue, right?
Oh yeah, I'm bringing that up. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. I was just wanting to bring up my Anakin here that my wife got me. That's it's not here yet, but it's gonna be here soon. But like, look at this picture, dude. Come on, this is what I want. This is exactly why I need my Obi-Wan Clone Wars figure. Look at that, dude.
Yeah, that's sick.
This is amazing. Like this is it. Like this is that's cool. There's no denying it. And that's the thing when you compare that to like I think I may have already closed it. I have the Obi-Wan up. Here's the Obi-Wan, and then you compare that to this Obi-Wan. Like I just prefer honestly the more realistic look, and the fact that I never cared for the character models in that CG show doesn't really help me want to get those other ones.
No, yeah,
Like
I prefer the real look as
in
well.
Bad Batch, though, like I will say, which we're going to talk about episode 1 and 2 like later on in the show. Um, I've actually really enjoyed it so far. There's only been 2 episodes, but there's still like the first episode was over an hour long, so it's been about an hour and a half worth of content, and it's been pretty good. And they've really elevated the character models in that show were a lot better. Like, they still have that same general kinda, like, boxy, like, weird kinda design, like, you can see on the Obi-Wan head sculpt here. They still have that general look to them, but the textures are so much more HD, like, that, like, and there's so much more detailing in it
Yeah,
that it actually, like, it looks pretty good, and, like, the CG environments look amazing. Like,
yeah,
ever since that final season of Clone Wars in particular, which this is kind of a continuation of that in some ways, um it would just look incredible. Just the CG environments. It's kinda like a Toy Story. Like, when you could watch Toy Story 4, when that movie opens up with just the shot of the house and it's raining outside, like, with no toys in the thing, it looked real. Like, and
right.
that's how, like, a lot of the environments in the Bad Batch show looks.
They
Like, they
do.
just look
They
real.
did a good job on them.
Yeah, so it looks really good. That's another thing. So here's like the Clone Wars era mall, but they're still using Ray Park's likeness. So it's a realistic look on it. And I like that more honestly. Because then it kind of like I said, it goes if they were to have not done that, you'd be in that situation that I brought up before, where if Sideshow doesn't continue on with the Clone Wars line, you only have those 2 figures. Whereas with Hot Toys, using the live action actors' likenesses for their Clone Wars era stuff, it fits in with more things
Yeah, I
because
like it.
you like the likeness,
Oh yeah.
the real actor one?
Oh,
Yeah, it
for
looks
sure.
great. And they even took liberties with this Ahsoka, like, they have the Clone Wars Ahsoka, but they didn't make it look, boxy like the Clone Wars one. They gave her a realistic interpretation of the animated Ahsoka, because like, you look at it, it looks nothing like Rosario Dawson or anything like that. Granted, this was announced far before Rosario Dawson was cast as Ahsoka. Would have been interesting to see it had Mandalorian came out already, if they would have actually gone ahead and used her likeness for this.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
be kind of interesting. I'd actually be kinda curious if, now that it is out, if they would, like a Sideshow exclusive one would actually have, like, a head sculpt. If you could, like, buy an extra that's actually not bad. I might buy one, like, as I know someone will be selling the Ahsoka head sculpt at some point, the Rosario Dawson one, or I
Yeah.
could just paint my Bo-Katan one, right?
Yeah.
Just make it look
You could
like
do that.
do that. But I think this looks great. This realistic interpretation of Ahsoka, like, with the Clone Wars armor, I think it looks great. But yeah, but of course, I will bring up the one thing I did end up purchasing something. This is kinda off the top here. So, this is definitely not our main topics. We're carrying this out for a little bit. But
Right.
I did kinda say off the top of the show when I was doing a little intro, it was a big week for collectibles, primarily Star Wars stuff, but I went ahead and got probably the greatest news that came out of the whole week figure-wise was the reissue of a 1 General Grievous from Sideshow Collectibles here. So, between this ironically, these 3 kinda go together in a lot of ways too, but I was always the most bummed that I missed out on 3 figures, and it was Grievous, Dooku, and the Palpatine that came with the chair,
Yeah.
the
The
throne
throne.
chair. Like, those are the 3 that, like, have really like, I was bummed that, like, that I never had, like, the BVS Batman or Justice League Superman because, like, I just wasn't even thinking about collecting my this like, Hot Toys at that time when they came out, so I was kind of at peace with not having those. But these ones were a little bit more recent, like, I just missed the whole, like, window because I just started collecting them just shortly after they came out. The Grievous is a little bit before then, but they were just selling for so much now, like, post, initial retail days, so it's like I was never gonna have them, and then boom. we get the Grievous, and this is a great figure. Like, I'm gonna be it's really big, it's gonna look awesome. Like, I'm very excited to have that. But once I have, that Maul and Ahsoka and Rex and then Anakin, then maybe hopefully Obi-Wan, I'll have 2 or 3 shelves, easily 3 shelves worth of just, like, Clone Wars specific stuff. But then I also have, like, Bo-Katan coming and, you could even throw in, what's his name? Commander Cody even in
Yeah.
there too. Like I'm gonna, so I am still focusing on Clone Wars in a lot of ways, but able to branch out a little bit. So that's why I did it. That's why I did it in the end. But John, out of all the announcements though, was there anything that you like kind of piqued your interest at all? Like, 'cause there was also like Mandalorian on
Yeah, the blurb.
the blurg, yeah, and then, the Bad Batch figures, they released, like, previews of Echo. Like, Echo's actually up for pre-order now, but they released a preview for Hunter, and, I was telling Rick I'm gonna actually be curious when it comes to there's 2 other characters in there that actually have significantly different body types than the other clones. Like, one of them's a lot smaller and skinnier
Yeah.
than
Is that
everyone
Tech?
else. Yeah,
Crosshair too.
yeah, Tech and Crosshair. No, this actually it's Echo. Echo's the smaller of the bunch.
Yeah.
And he has a looks like he has a normal body, so I don't know if they're actually gonna give him a different one or not. But what's his name? The muscle guy.
The bu- bu-
Wrecker? It's
Wrecker.
Wrecker. Yeah.
He likes to smash stuff.
Yeah, Wrecker is a lot bulkier of a dude, so I'm wondering if they're gonna use like
He's
the heavy
tall.
artillery Mandalorian body for him.
Possible.
Like, but that's what I'm hoping they do because yeah, they're all supposed to be like Tamora Morrison, quote unquote, but they're really not. They all are different sizes and shapes. Unlike the what do they call them? There's a name, the norms, or is that what they called them? The Tech always referred to the other clones as something in the first 2 episodes.
Normies?
Was it
Norms?
normies or norms?
Something like that.
Regs, right?
Regs, yeah.
I think it was regs.
Something like along those lines.
Yeah. But yeah, all the regs, they look the same. They all look like Tamora Mortensen, just like in Attack of the Clones. But these 5 are drastically different in a lot of ways. Like even the faces don't necessarily all look like Tamora Morrison in a lot of ways. Like they do, but then they kind of don't at the same time. So, but John, I just kind of rambled on when I was asking you what you thought was interesting. Is it what did you think was like the best kind of like new release here that came out?
So when I first started buying Hot Toys, my focus was the Dark Knight series, and there's still a handful of figures out there, but I've mainly completed my Dark Knight series, especially with the re-release coming up of the Tumbler and the Bat Pod. So then I moved into Marvel, but I love the Mandalorian so much, I started to get into the Mandalorian too. I got OG Mando, and then I got Beskar Mando with Child, and the one figure that I never thought I'd see released was Queel, and he got at least shown, and like they're gonna bring one out, so it's gonna be hard for me not to get him because I just love that character. He's such a minor character too. It's like I was really surprised that he was ever appeared in it, but he was such a fun part of that beginning of the series that I really like enjoy that. The Blurg was a cool little like back in the day when I had my Kenner figures, like I loved having like the Tauntaun to put Han on and stuff. So having a Blurg seems like pretty cool too. So I'm really trying to figure out like can my wallet sustain diving deep into the Mandalorian on this stuff? Like I was able to hold off on Bo-Katan, but some of the releases this week were kind of is going to make it harder. But I think I've got some time to make those decisions. So.
Right.
Yeah, dude, that's what I was actually kind of shocked to see that they did a Queel. I'm trying to pull them up here, but for whatever
Yeah.
reason, when you search for it, it doesn't just come right up. This is a YouTube
Yeah, he's
post.
under the coming soon section on Sideshow if you can get to there. But the
Mhm.
other thing I'll say is like they re-released OG Mando. OG Mando just went out of stock like 3 or 4 months ago. Like I got mine right at the end of 2020, and I think I got one of the last ones, and they went out of stock. So he's only been out of stock a few months, and they're already bringing him back. And they're actually bringing him back with a flamethrower effect on him, which mine didn't come with. So I'm a little disappointed in that there's this new version that's got this cool flamethrower effect. But I'm wondering if I can't buy that aftermarket maybe at some point.
Right.
or if I sell mine and then upgrade to the newer one. I don't know yet how I'm going to handle that, or just be okay not having it, which might be the case. But yeah, and then they released another one that's going to be hard because it's relatively inexpensive, although mm, it's almost like an accessory set, but they're also releasing a Grogu set with
Mm-hmm.
like the box that Grogu goes in, and like a couple of the little animals, the frog that goes with him, and like Grogu with a couple different facial expressions. And it's not that expensive. I mean, comparatively, when you're talking about Hot Toys, everything's expensive, but compared to a full Hot Toy, it's not that expensive. I think it's in the 150 ballpark. So I love Grogu, and I honestly, there are people out there that are complaining about how many Grogu's Hot Toys is releasing, because like every figure that gets released, the Scout Biker came with one. Of course, Mando comes with one. I think there's a version of Ahsoka that may be coming with one. Like everybody's
Mm-hmm.
coming with a Grogu, and people are like, "How many Grogus do we need?" Well, I'm in the camp that says no amount of Grogus is too much. So
Right.
I might look into that too. He comes with the new pram too. Like it's the updated one. So
Well, it comes with
yeah,
different head sculpts too. I mean, he has the two
different head sculpts.
expressions.
Yeah, three different head sculpts. Yeah. So we'll see. They're definitely they know how to entice me, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I just posted something on Instagram the other day where I said like they were milking the Grogu's for sure. It was when they announced this one because I had just right when
Oh,
they
yeah.
announced the Ahsoka for Mando, it came with a Grogu. That's when everyone started complaining about everything. I got too many Grogu's now. Like what the hell? And then they
Yeah.
announced this, where like essentially three Grogu's because you get the different head sculpts. And if you had Mando and Grogu, then Ahsoka and Grogu, you get this thing. You can at least put the heads on all the bodies and have all the expressions at once.
Yeah.
So you'd have that
Yeah,
going for you.
what do they call I think they call it something like, oh, they call there's a name for it. It's something building, like, um
Kit Bash?
no, like, when people buy a bunch of the stormtroopers, they say, they're like troop building, or I don't know, there's a phrase I've heard people use, because I don't buy troopers, so I don't know, but, like, when they buy, like, 10 of the same trooper figure to build to have a scene of a ton of troopers, they call it something like something building, it's referred to, and, like, I'm Grogu building at this point.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have, like,
right.
3 Grogus hanging
Yeah.
out.
No, for sure. That's what like I was kind of in a similar vein for a little bit once Hot Toys released their Grogu because I had already gotten the Sideshow Grogu here. But then like Hot Toys released theirs, and I was, like, so tempted to get it just because it was, like, more articulated, obviously, but then it came with the different ears and you could move his mouth, so it was, like, definitely different enough to kind of warrant it, but I just couldn't bring myself to actually get it. Like, it was just, like, I already have the one, it was the same price, and I was just like, "I don't really wanna do this," like, no, but when they announced the Mando and Blurg, that's when I was like, "Oh, man," because I know you specifically said that you were kinda convinced to get one. Like, sort of, like, you kinda convinced yourself to get it because you were worried eventually it's gonna be, like, gone forever, and, like, who knows if he'll ever do one again because he's really never gonna be seen in that armor again, and,
Yeah,
then they released this, and I was like, "Man, had you waited a little bit, you coulda got a Blurg with it too,"
right?
which would've just been
Yeah,
kinda cool, but at least they are selling the Blurg separate, so
yep.
if someone already has the regular Mando, you can still get the old Blurg, and honestly, I think they're selling the Blurg separate because of Queel.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
in all honesty, because then you could have them both. Like, you could buy one just for Queel, or if you already had Mando, you can just buy it by itself. So I think that was probably a big reason as to why they decided to do it separate, because they normally don't do, like, the whole separate thing. Like, if something comes with it, like, that's just how it is. Like, they did the Nightmare 2-pack for, Snyder Cut, and they didn't re-release them individually. That's just how you get them. Like, if you
yeah.
want Black Suit, you gotta get it that way, which is kind of annoying, but either way. But nevertheless, Rick, I know you don't. Before we move on, I know you still haven't got a hot toy yet, and you love Star Wars. Did anything get announced this week that has convinced you to buy one?
No.
Like, no, still,
No. Yeah, I mean, they're cool,
still,
just not my thing, really.
yeah,
Price point is too prohibitive.
Yeah, and I don't have any room to put them. I'm not like itching to get them. I'll put it that way. I'm not gonna say like
Right.
no, I'll never get one, but I'm in no hurry.
Yeah, and honestly, like
I want like a Mando or something. That'd be cool.
you can get
Yeah.
a Mando,
Well,
man. They
yeah,
got those.
yeah, but
Like, they just that's what we're talking about now.
well, yeah,
You
yeah.
can get them with the blurg. That's the perfect time to get them. Like, get that one.
Yeah.
Spend more money. It's only $555.
I was gonna say I think that's more than my car payment.
Yeah, well, dude, I don't know how people. That's another story. I don't know how people like actually like buy cars and want to spend that much money a month on it.
Okay.
That's like more than some people's rent, man.
Oh, dude, I
Like,
used to work for Mercedes.
yeah,
The payments that I would see working there.
yeah. Then you literally are paying rent, like for
Yeah.
your car at that point. So, but nevertheless, before I move on to our next topic, let us know in the comments section if you do collect the figures, which I'm sure if you watch our channel you probably do because we do the figure reviews and all that stuff anyway. So was there anything that you picked up during the whole fan week from Sideshow? It was pretty much just a bunch of Star Wars announcements. For me, the one I picked up, like I said, is General Grievous. As soon as that went up, I paid it. Bam, done. And I had like $50 off in Sideshow rewards, so it worked out too. I got it for even cheaper than I ever could have before. And it was like going, aftermarket pricing was like 600 some bucks. So I was never going to buy it for that price. So I was very happy that happened. So if there's anything that you got though, and you're excited about any of that stuff, let us know down in the comment section below. All right, guys. So now with that done out of the way here, off the top's done there. The Sideshow, big extravaganza week, it's out of the way. We covered a lot of that stuff too. Our whole stream this past Friday was pretty much exclusively talking about that stuff. So if you want to hear us kind of really like nerd and geek out about some little 12-inch toys, then go watch the stream from this past Friday because that's where we really broke all that stuff down. So we're going to get into our first main topic here today, and that is with Warner Brothers actually fully committing to, well, I'm not going to say fully committing, but they've at least announced that they are indeed looking for a black Superman now at this point. So a while back it came out that ta-nehisi Coates, I think I'm pronouncing that probably wrong, but either way, I think it was pretty ta-nehisi Coates. I think that's how it's pronounced. I don't know. It's a very interesting name, just like John has a very interesting look. It's a very interesting name. But they have come out and said like rumors kind of came when ta-nehisi was announced that he was going to be writing, was tapped to write a Superman script for J.J. Abrams, and Bad Robot are going to be producing the film. It was kind of rumored at the time, but not confirmed that they were going to be like doing a Black Superman story. And now it's been confirmed that they are doing that, and it's still pretty vague on everything. The only thing that really came out of this, like around the same time, was like someone was interviewing Michael B. Jordan and asked him like kind of directly, like, "Hey, like they're supposedly looking for a black Superman, and like your name's come up quite a bit when that's been brought up. So are you involved with that in any way?" And unfortunately, he said he's not. And I think that's like if anything's going to be disappointing, that's the only disappointing thing about this as of right now is that Michael B. Jordan is not being looked at for it. Which who knows though? Who knows where they're going? Michael B. Jordan is a fantastic actor. Like I love Michael B. Jordan, and I actually. Speaking of Michael B. Jordan, I just watched Without Remorse, the Tom Clancy film that's on Amazon, and everyone was saying the movie was like really bad, and it's really not that bad. Like it's not great. It's a lot of there was nothing new and exciting or fresh. It wasn't like good or bad. It was if you want to say it was bad, I would just say it's because there was like nothing new. It's nothing you haven't seen before, and maybe nothing that hasn't been done better. It was kind of like, you know what I mean? It's like an action movie for the sake of being an action movie. There's nothing like too super exciting about it. And it seemed like it was just kind of there to potentially set up some other stuff, which is kind of like the way they did that was like really stupid at the very end of the movie. I'm not gonna give any spoilers just in case anybody would see it, but Michael B. Jordan was fantastic in the film, and like everyone was pretty good in the film. But I watched it and I didn't think it was all that bad. Like, so I would say if you like Michael B. Jordan and you like action movies, you should just watch it and kind of see for yourself because everyone is saying it's like dog shit and it's not that bad. Like it's good, it's well made, but nothing really to write home about. I think Jeremy John said it best when his rating scale, like he'll say, if it's good, it's like buy it on Blu-ray or, or whatever. Or be a good time if you're drunk kind of thing. And he said he wouldn't remember it in T minus like 1 day or whatever. Like that's what, like it's forgettable because there's really nothing like super great that happens in it. But I feel like that's really the best way to describe it. But nevertheless, Michael B. Jordan's great. My only thing is with this Black Superman thing, and that has me like really iffy about it, is if they do it, like I think it's a mistake for them just to do like a Black Clark Kent and just like swap him. Like I think they should do the Val Zod thing. They should do the who's the other one? Can't remember his name. I don't know how I just blanked on his name because there's two Black Supermen in the comics already. Calvin something. Calvin Harris, not Calvin Harris. That's the DJ. I'd laugh. Maybe it is Calvin Harris. It's close to Calvin Harris. I know it is. It's Kelvin or it's Calvin something. Calvin Ellis. I think it's Calvin Ellis. Either way, they should just adapt one of those like already pre-existing ones or make an all new character. Like, cause that's the most like, in my opinion, when you just like swap it for the sake of swapping it, or like is race or gender wise, it's just lazy. Like it's just what's the point? Like if you want to tell a new story, then tell a new story. Like because it'd be really interesting to see like a story about a Kryptonian who isn't black or white because they're an alien, right? Like they hail from Krypton, whether he's male or female, whatever. This alien being hails from a completely different planet that has different cultures and stuff. Like racism may or may not have even been a thing on Krypton. So when he crash lands here and has the appearance of a black man in America, especially depending on what year this occurs in, like that could create a lot of very interesting character dynamics. You know what I mean? Like he's this all powerful, God man who's essentially here to be like Earth's savior, but half the world hates him just because of his skin color. You know what I mean? Like that can set up a lot of very interesting narratives and like cool stuff. But that's something you would do with a new character because that's not part of Clark Kent and what Clark Kent's been about. You know what I mean? That's what kind of would bother me with it. It's like if you want to tell that like really rich story, just tell that story. You don't have to like it lessens it in like all ways because you're like it's like the only way this will work is if you say he's Clark Kent. Like, no, it'll work if you just tell a good story and like, whoever you use as the character is a good character. You know what I mean? Would you guys like agree with that in any sort of way, or am I talking out my ass here? Because
No, I
like,
would agree.
yeah, I don't care about like what color of anybody's skin is. That's not what like what it is. Like if you do, like, yeah, no, you're just pathetic, dude. Like go
Right,
do
right,
something else. Like you're ridiculous. Like who
right.
cares? Um, so, like, I don't know, I just feel like it lessens everything if you're just like it's the same with, like, gender swapping things just for the sake of doing it, you know? But,
Yeah.
like, conversely to that, there's plenty of things that you can do where it doesn't matter. Like, in The Falcon and Winter Soldier, Carly Morgenthau. In the comics, that's a dude, it's Carl Morgenthau. But it didn't change anything. Like,
No.
it was and they weren't doing it just to, like, cram some like agenda in your face about it. Like they didn't say like girl power, the girl's stronger than the male one. Like, no, it's just like it didn't matter in the comics whether this was a dude or a girl. And in the show, they just made it a girl. Like it didn't matter.
Right.
Like, but that's not really the same case with a lot of characters. Cause if you're gonna do like a Black Clark Kent and use a lot of like racial themes, that's not part of that is 100% changing Clark Kent's character because that's not what Clark Kent's story was about. If you just wanted to recast him as a black man and then not have any racial themes in it, then that's different. But then at that point, what's the point? Like, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because then it's just I don't know. It's just, there's just really no point to it. That's why I think do something new, do something like exciting with it, not just doing it for the sake of doing it because it's lazy for like it's lazy like writing and it's lazy for like the audience. It's like I don't know. It just bothers me.
Yeah.
And they could make it great and it could be awesome. Like I don't care about that. Like it's just like on paper it sounds like a bad idea. But what are you guys thoughts on this? You feel like similar to me or what are you guys thinking? Rick, what are you thinking? You had something to say about this before we went on cam here.
I agree with you. My question is, and it's hard to say this without sounding bad, but because of the racial tension in our country and in the world right now, it makes me wonder, at least, is it like, are they only doing that to basically say like, hey, look, Superman can be black too, you know, like, I don't know.
Are they trying to cash in on
Yeah, capitalize
Exactly.
on it.
what's going on?
That's exactly how that's a good way to put it. And that's just like my biggest worry.
Which puts a negative spin on it that shouldn't be associated with something of this magnitude.
Right. And it shouldn't.
And it's hard. It's one of those things. It's impossible. I think it would be impossible for the general public to ever know. I mean, unless we reach a point where somebody internally at Warner Brothers releases a memo or something commenting, where somebody is dumb enough to have said, hey, look, we've analyzed the current market trends, and hey, if we release a Black Superman movie, we show that profits will be 3 times what they would for a traditional Superman. Like,
Right.
I don't think anybody, hopefully, although Warner Brothers, with the decisions they make, you never know. But hopefully nobody's stupid enough to actually have written that memo, even if that is what they're thinking. And it would be unfortunate if that's the reason they're moving forward with it. Now, if they're moving forward with it for different reasons, more altruistic reasons, then great. Like that's an important decision, and it makes this new era kind of mean something more important, and they happen to be releasing it at a opportune time. So I kind of jumped in there. Rick, did you have something else
that basically covers it. I mean, I think it's cool. It'd be cool to see a black Superman. What was it? What other character are they having a black version of now? There was that girl.
There's Captain America.
Well, there's that, and that was awesome. Yeah. But no, Andy Muschietti, that video we watched where, was it Supergirl?
Oh, she's Latino.
She's Latino, yeah. But instead of it being like a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white girl, you know.
Sure.
So
see, and that's another thing. That's a good example there too, where like there is really nothing like. Well, I don't know how they're gonna write the character or anything, but like the color of Supergirl's skin doesn't matter.
No,
like it doesn't matter at all. Like in Supergirl, honestly, she's kind of like what is the best word for it? She's like a derivative character. You know what I mean? She's not like she's not Superman. There's not like a rich lore history. You can do whatever you want with someone like Supergirl, character wise, and no one's really gonna care all that much.
No.
So like they could kind of like they could even make it like add racial themes to that, and like I don't think it would impact as many people out there. You know what I mean? Because like the thing is going to happen where if they announce a black Superman, you're going to have these dillweeds out there who just hate it because they're racist idiots.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
And that's going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to happen no matter what they do. Even if they do what they should do and like adapt Calvin Ellis or Val Zod or make a whole new character and then just have him be Superman. Like that's what they should do. But even if they do that, you're still gonna have these people out there who act like that. You'll never get around it. But like it's gonna be like if you want to go just with like that small niche people, they'll be even more vocal about it if they say like it's Clark Kent. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like they would be like
the people would swapping skin colors at that.
Yeah, they would just be because like if they really wanted to do that, like I wouldn't care in the end. I just think it's lazy on their part. Just make them a new person. Like like. Wait, I don't know. That's just how I feel about it. Like it's cool enough. Like Calvin Ellis is cool. Calvin Ellis, he was based on Barack Obama. He literally becomes president of the United States on his earth, and he's also Superman, and he's a black man. Like that's a cool character. Like that's interesting. He's already an existing character. Like why would you not just adapt that story? Like I don't know. But I mean, Hollywood does make some like stupid decisions sometimes, and they just kind of go with quote unquote easy ways out a lot of times. Like I don't know. But John, what's your opinion on this in the end? Like, you excited for something like this to happen? You got any hesitations?
Yeah. So I feel like I'm going to preface what I'm going to say just because I think it's important when you're discussing this stuff to just be as forthright as possible about things. And I don't think, it's lost on the three of us that here we are, 3 white males commenting on what is going to happen or what it's going to be like to see a black man or a black person cast as, Superman. We all have a certain background and a certain, place in society that we,
You
at least
froze
for me
again.
personally. Oh, great.
I didn't
A
want you to
certain
get
place.
deep and be Mr. Freeze the whole time.
Sure. Um, we have certain life experiences and certain things that are inherently tied to our culture and our race, and that extends on down the line. No matter who you are, your life is influenced by so many factors, and sometimes to a bigger degree, depending on where you fall. Like race for African Americans and for Latinos and Oriental people, Asian Americans now. That is even more of a factor in their lives than it is for white people traditionally. So when we comment, when I talk about this stuff, I completely understand that something I say, I may not have the right frame of reference for accurately knowing or understanding how this would influence a person of color. Um, so, the only thing that I can say is come at it from like these are my honest feelings about it. If for some reason, something that I feel doesn't reflect the way that that other ethnicities feel about something, um, I'm all for like hearing that and getting that feedback and understanding that and getting a better perspective. I think one of the things that people are afraid of nowadays is talking about race. And because of some of the things that come up, but I am a strong believer in that the only way you come to understand what these things mean to other people is by talking about them. So that's just my kind of, because like I feel when you start talking about this, you kind of run into that catch 22 of, are you being honest, and also are you looking at it from every lens that you possibly can given your experience. Um, so I think this would be great. I think it would be very cool to see a black actor cast as Superman. Um, I I personally would like them to see them use one of the established black Superman that exist in the comic books. That being said, I also understand that the most well-known version of the character is the Clark Kent character. And if they decide that the Clark Kent character being the most well-known character is able to bring that story to the broadest audience possible, that for whatever reason, if they try and present a black Superman named Val-Zod, that people will be like, "Well, Val-Zod, who's that? That's not the real Superman." Like, for whatever reason, if they feel like that will diminish from the real or the authenticity of the character, um, then that's kind of an understandable decision, I guess, from that perspective. Um, so I'm kind of torn. Like I can understand it if they go the one route. I do have a preference, but it is what it is. The other part of this that you know, again, I think it's I'm probably gonna butcher his first name, but Mr. Coates, the gentleman that they've hired to write the script. Um, we talked about this when we talked first about him being brought onto the project months ago. His one of his most well-known books is Between the World and Me. It's just an exploration of his experience growing up in America and his relationship with American society as a black man. And it's a great book. Like there's a lot of really touching moments in the book, and it helps at least provide a framework or an understanding of at least what one black man's experience was or is in American society. And I thought it was brilliantly written, beautifully written. And so I was really excited to hear him that being brought on to work on the character of Superman. And so I think he can do a brilliant job with it. And then there's this other part of me that, we've talked about multiple times on the show. Like, I love Henry Cavill. I love his Superman. I think that there's as much as the character that he's been written, that he's been given in the movies that he's starred in has had issues. That isn't none of the issues that I've had with those movies have had anything to do with Henry's portrayal of the character. And so there's this part of me that wants Henry to continue. And so then there's this part of me that wants DC to be brave and bold and stick by what they've said they're going to do and offer us a DC multiverse. Offer us two different Supermen and don't have them compete and don't make decisions about which one gets to go forward based on how much sales go or whatever. If Ta-Nehisi Coates is writing a good quality Superman script, give him a trilogy. If he wants to make it a trilogy, give him that up front. Don't make this a competition, because then you're inherently inviting people to use race as a determination on the quality of these films or the validity of these films. Be bold and give him, the story that he wants to tell. So it's a tough thing to talk about as far as the racial aspect of it goes. But I do think it's an important thing. Mark Bernardin, who does a podcast with Kevin Smith, he has said multiple times, I've heard him talk, that he feels that most comic book characters are pretty much race neutral, that you can change the race of many comic book characters and you're not inherently changing the character. He said the one exception in his mind is the Bruce Wayne Batman character, just because of Bruce's family and their wealth and how that is inherently tied to American history and the tradition of passing wealth down from generation to generation. That's where Bruce's wealth comes from. So that's an inherently tied trait to Batman, being a traditionally white character because of that, and kind of the expectations that come along with that old money kind of sense. But other than that, he says, and I think that's honestly true. Right? Again, you mentioned it earlier, Rob. As long as you're telling a good story, it doesn't matter. So that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah, that was going to be kind of my final kind of point with it all, because like in the end, I totally agree. Like whenever, especially a group of little white fellas like us talk about this stuff, we get looked at like, what do you know? Fair
Right.
point. It's a very fair point. But the only thing I do know is that, like, at least like my own thoughts wise, is like I don't care, like I said, what color anybody is in real life, and I don't care if you want to change the color of the comic book character or whatever. The only thing that bothers me is if, kind of like you were just saying with Mark Bernardin's point, is that I don't like it if if it inherently changes the character, because at that point
Mhm.
there's no point in being that character. You know what I mean? Like if it fundamentally changes the character, like either way, like even if it's for the better, it's still like, well, at that point that's no longer the character, and you kind of
It's a
just,
different
yeah,
character.
you're just
Yeah.
using it. It's like marketing at that point. Like you said, like, well, we got to make a Clark Kent because everyone knows Clark Kent. Like,
Well,
then
one
do
of the
Clark Kent. Like,
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring, because you do have that's a good point. One of the most, I mean, I think Superman, we already have an example of Superman not changing race, but changing nationality. It's one of the most beloved Superman stories of all time, and it's Superman Red Sun. It's the story of
Mhm.
what would happen if Kal-El's ship landed in Russia instead of the United States, and then Kal-El's raised as a Russian and under this socialist communist regime. And, if they want to take the story and say, what if Kal-El's ship were to land in the South, in a predominantly black area of the South, and he's found by black parents, and give the spin of the Superman character from that perspective. What kind of issues does he grow up, you know, dealing with? Because those kind of issues are completely different from a white kid raised in Midwestern Kansas. Like, those there are completely different frames of references when you become an adult and you interact with the world, especially somebody on the power level of Superman. But it has been done before with great success. So there's no reason to think that this story couldn't be done well in that regard. Um, I don't believe in Red Son that they called him Kent, did they? I think they gave him a more Russian sounding name. I can't remember exact, but regardless, I mean, it's just an example of how the story can be done in a different manner.
Yeah, which I mean, that's the thing too. Like if they yeah, I don't think he was called Clark Kent because he was found by like Soviet Union, so he had a Russian name
Mhm.
and everything, which is like kind of like to the point, right? Like if you, it's technically a different character, like
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like they're saying it's like the same alien boy for like whatever, but they didn't have him drop in Russia and he's just Clark Kent over like Russian Clark Kent.
Sure.
You know what I mean? He's just, it's different. So it would actually be kind of interesting to see if they did have him even still, like if they had a black skin toned Kryptonian land with Ma and Pa Kent. You know what I mean? So now, like, you're not saying it's Clark Kent. Like, I mean, maybe you could, maybe they'd still want to name him Clark. I don't
Mark Kent.
know. But like, I like what you were kind of saying with like the what if thing. Like, if they made like it like a what if story and wanted to just do like the whole like Mom, Pa Kent, these couple of white people find the alien and he looks black, and now it's like there's all these racial themes that are going to be added to it. That's an interesting story, like I was saying off the top. Um, I just don't know if it would need to be Clark Kent at that point, though. Like that's the
Yeah.
only thing that it's like I would find it more compelling and more interesting if you just made a new character for him, because like you know what I mean. Well, like Black Panther was like so important for more reasons, you know, to black culture in general, just because it's like the first black superhero like led film, like big one, like, and it's important. It's like literally about like African heritage, and like even if it's a fictional place, it really embraces the, you know, the African like heritage of people and everything, and it's important on like a cultural level. And if they just, I feel like it lessens it if you just use the Clark Kent name because it's popular, you know?
Mhm.
It's
Right.
like I would just like you said, it's like, well, they already have existing like black Supermen in the comics, both Val Zod and Calvin Ellis. And like I said, Calvin Ellis, I don't know much about Val Zod, but I think Val Zod, if I'm not mistaken, he like was found but was kind of like hidden from like the world. And then like, I think, when one of the stories, Superman, like Clark Kent Superman gets, like, brainwashed by Darkseid and goes, like, rogue and starts killing everybody, and then I think Lois goes and, like, finds out that, like, Val-Zod exists and, like, kinda, like, teaches him and convince him how to use his powers to stop Clark. I think that's his story. I might be getting it confused, but then like Calvin Ellis is like a completely different thing, and he's based on Barack Obama. And like both of those characters, those are both cool stories. Like they're cool in
Yeah.
their own. So
Yeah.
that's why like they're not just like changing Clark Kent's stories, like they have their own story, you know, and it'd be really cool. Like if even if they made a whole new one, like just a whole brand new character for the screen, like that would be cool too. I just don't want them to just, I don't know, I just want them to do something good and interesting, you know, not just do it for the sake of doing it. Like I want them to do it because they have a good story to tell, you know,
Right.
and they have a
Mhm.
good character to tell the story with. Because in the end, that's all that really matters, you know.
Mhm.
So I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to either way. And like I said off the top, the only thing that bums me out is that it's not Michael B. Jordan, because he would be one hell of a Superman no matter what color he is, especially after watching in Without Remorse. 'Cause like I said, movie's not all that great, but he's great in it, man. He is so good in that
Well,
movie.
yeah,
Like,
he's great. He's great in just about everything he does.
yeah.
Obviously, Killmonger, he was fantastic. The Creed movies, he's
Mhm.
been fantastic. I even liked him in the Fantastic Four
Yeah, I mean,
movie.
even that, for sure.
But,
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing I'll say about the Michael B. Jordan story about him, I think he's came out and said he turned it down or whatever, or he wasn't interested or whatever. As we'll be talking about later with Andrew Garfield, it's sometimes best to take an actor's comments with a grain of salt because um, they may not be allowed to say what's actually going on, so they may have to cover for people or the stories that haven't been released, or things could even change over time, and they may change their mind about what they actually want to do. So,
Yeah.
we'll
Could be a
see.
no now, but could be a yes,
Yeah,
tomorrow. So who knows?
exactly.
We'll just have to wait and see. But guys, question is though, you hear about this, and like we kind of said before, the news came out that Coach was going to be writing this, working with JJ a couple months ago, and it was kind of like I don't know if it was like assumed, but it was definitely rumored that they were going to be looking for Black Superman, and that's been confirmed. So what do you guys think about this down in the comments? Should they do you care either way? Like, or would you rather them do this like a Clark Kent, but tell the story with Clark Kent as a black Clark Kent? God, I can't even talk. After saying Clark Kent so much, it gets kind of difficult. Or would you rather them adapt like a Calvin Ellis or a Val Zod or just a whole brand new character in general? Let us know what you think down in the comment section below. All right, guys. So our next main topic here today keeps us in the world of the DC universe, but as John was saying, the multiverse, if you will, if DC is going to be sticking with that, because we do know that we don't know, like if they're going to be doing this multiverse thing with Superman at this point. We don't know if, oh my God, I was about to say Clark Kent was coming back, but we don't know if Henry Cavill is coming back as Clark Kent. I hope he does. He's my favorite Superman, but we don't know what's going on with the Superman franchise at this point in time. But we do know that we're going to have two different Batmen on screen. So we're going to have Robert Pattinson's Batman soon, and then Ben Affleck's Batman is indeed coming back for the Flash movie. We don't know how big or how small that role is going to be, and then we're actually going to have three Batman because I forgot about Michael Keaton's also coming back for that Flash movie. So that aside, we have a little teaser, kind of like it was almost like a featurette of sorts. Like I think this was like something that DC was probably going to be releasing with like Fandom. It'll probably be played at Fandom again, but probably like a little bit longer of a segment here. But they released something here for the Batman with Robert Pattinson in it, and it's just primarily like Zoe Kravitz and Matt Reeves just kind of talking throughout it like briefly. This is like a couple minutes of them having a discussion about like the Catwoman character, and Matt Reeves goes on to say that this isn't going to be a like Batman origin story, but it is like a Batman in his early days, so like a fresh Batman. So he hasn't been doing it for too long. He hasn't really said how long he's been doing it, but we're gonna get into the movie. He's gonna be an established Batman already in some right. But what he does go on to say is that all of the rogues, though, like Batman's rogues gallery, all his villains, it is kind of an origin for them. So he says like Catwoman is not really Catwoman at this point in time. I mean, it's just Selena Kyle, and she's like they almost made it sound like she's like a Robin Hood-esque kind of character. And then like the same applied for like Riddler and then Penguin. Like they're not like they're fully established like Riddler character or the Penguin character. We're seeing them evolve like into those kind of true characters. Doesn't really say if it's gonna be like, oh, by the end of the film, someone's gonna call her Catwoman or anything like that. So we don't know. This could be something that kind of evolves over the next, you know, couple of movies, because Matt Reeves has said that like he has a trilogy planned. So this could be just an ongoing thing. They all could get their cool, fancy comic book names and costumes in this movie. We don't really know, but it is interesting to find that stuff out because it was kind of, I don't know. We didn't. It's just new information, really. So Rick, I know the Batman's been something that you've been pretty excited about seeing. So, what are your thoughts on this? This little like featurette coming out, and Matt Reeves saying that it's not an origin for Batman, but it's kind of an origin for the villains. Are you on board with that, or would you rather like see them just like, oh, that's the Riddler? Like, what do you think?
An interesting way to do it. I mean, I think it'll be kind of cool to like see them established as characters, like you were saying, and like in the early days of their careers as well. And I think it'd be interesting if like the entire movie nobody says the word Catwoman once, but you know who it is, you know who she's going to become, and same with like the Riddler and all that. Like I could totally see them saying like Paul Dano or whatever. He's not going to be like I'm the Riddler. So I think it's cool. It'll be neat to see Batman as a younger person and not like, a guy in his like 30s, 40s or whatever. It sounds like he's supposed to be like in his mid to early 20s. I don't know. Um, but I think it'll be cool. It'll be interesting to see like what they do with the trilogy and like if they have like a Joker down the road, all that sort of stuff. So
Right. It's almost kind of like, in a way, the Nolan approach,
yeah.
right? Because like Selena Kyle was in there, but she was never really called Catwoman.
No, she
You
looked
know.
like a cat with her
Yeah.
little like goggles. but-
Right. So she had that, and literally the same scenario with little scene we did see of Selena Kyle from the first preview back at Fandom, that first trailer when she's like dropping in and breaking in that bank vault or whatever it
Mhm.
was, her beanie that she had on.
Has a little like cat.
Yeah, they
ears.
just kind of like poked up on the ends there. So it's like it's very akin to that whole Nolan grounded realism thing. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they never get penned those names in the movie.
Yeah,
And if they
that
do,
wouldn't surprise me.
yeah, like maybe with like Paul Dano's Riddler character, he's leaving behind riddles and stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if just like some beat cop
Just like, he's the Riddler.
yeah, says it offhand, like, what do you mean that Riddler guy
Code
at it
name
again
Riddler.
or whatever, and like that's what you get. He's like, so he's just like, which in all honesty, that's how like realistically I would imagine all of these people get their names, other than like Batman, because Batman, well, even so, Batman could have never once said that he is Batman, but like look at him.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, it could be like code names
he's a
that like,
guy
the
in
police
Batsuit.
give to these people. Just
Yeah,
like,
right. Just like serial killers.
Yeah, just like code name Zodiac or whatever.
Exactly.
You know.
Yeah, like writers normally like.
He does riddles, so it's called the Riddler.
Yeah, exactly. That's normally how it happens with like serial killers and stuff. Like normally it's not like the dude, like the Zodiac killer, even for instance, he didn't sign his letters like Zodiac killer at the end of it. They just ended up calling him the Zodiac killer, if I'm not mistaken.
I think he did sign it as Zodiac.
Not in the first ones.
Not in.
I think later on, as he continued leaving,
As he gained notoriety.
yeah, because I think he was given the name.
He's like,
Like
I like that.
by
That's
the writers, so then he would leave that name so people knew who it like indeed was, and it wasn't like a copycat thing. Maybe,
Yeah.
I'm like, I might be
it's got a
getting it
ring to it.
confused,
I had to
but
keep that.
yeah, but I just like normally you don't get this in a comic book. Yeah, they're just gonna say I'm gonna call myself the Riddler, but in real life, it really would just be kind of like given to him, like you would think.
You would think.
Yeah, but John, yeah, you hear this stuff, or is this something that you're more on board with? Like I said, it's kind of the more Nolan kind of approach to thing. Like Bane was never really called Bane, and like, but we knew who he was and everything. So, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. I think that Reeves has done something smart. I mean, I think he has a good grasp on the fact that we're not that far removed from the Nolan verse. I mean, it's going to be 2012, 2022 when this movie. So we're going to be a decade away from Nolan. But the Christopher or Nolan Batman films are still near and dear to many comic book and just general audiences' hearts. So you have the Batman origin with Batman Begins. So I think it makes sense to not jump back into that, and if you're going to provide an origin story, go and do it with the villains. I think that's an interesting way to take it. Like we got kind of origins for the villains in the Burton verse, in so much as Jack Napier turning into the Joker, and then Michelle Pfeiffer, Selena Kyle, and Danny DeVito's Cat or Penguin. But those were all very stylistic choices by Dan. What is it? It wasn't Danny Elfman did the music, by Tim Burton, and didn't really follow the traditional comic book route of those characters. So it would be cool to see, hopefully, him stick to a more traditional comic book version of these characters and kind of develop their origins that way. Interesting note, while Selena Kyle in the Nolan films was never called Catwoman, in one of the newspaper clippings when Bruce first meets her and is investigating her background, she is referred to in one of the articles as the Cat, which was actually what Catwoman's original name was in her first appearance back in the first issue of Batman way back in the 1940s. She was called the Cat when she first debuted. It wasn't until a little later on that they redubbed her as Catwoman. So anyway, that was just a cool little side note, but it'll be interesting, like you guys said, to see if like maybe she never calls herself Catwoman, but she kind of gets dubbed that by the media or whatever, and that's how her name develops in this universe. And I think it'll just be cool. My one concern with the Rogues Gallery, I love a good Batman Rogue story. Obviously he has one of, if not the, I think people would argue between him and Spider-Man for or the Flash, who has the best rogues gallery. In my opinion, it's always going to be Batman, but
for sure.
there is definitely a debate, I guess, to be had.
Those are the big
but
three, though. Those,
yeah,
I was gonna say the same thing. Like those three are like the big three.
yeah.
I
So
would
I'm
throw
all
Superman in
for
there too.
yeah, Superman. Yeah, I think he still is just that one tier below those three, though.
Yeah,
But my biggest concern is not I'm not concerned. Like concern almost seems too much, but my biggest little nagging feeling is that it could turn into a Batman villains movie versus a Batman movie that focuses on Batman, and then the villains are, the villains could basically overtake the story and become more important than the actual character of Batman. So there's always you always run that risk. It's very, I think people that want to say that the Burton movies were all about the villains and very little to do with Batman. I understand that. I mean, for me, obviously Batman '89 is the catalyst for my fandom. So I have a hard time saying anything bad about it. But obviously Jack Nicholson's Joker loomed large over that film. And then once you get to Batman Returns, it's all about DeVito and Michelle Pfeiffer, and Batman is kind of a side character to them. So, but anyway, I'm looking forward to his movie. The Batman looks phenomenal. Everything that comes out from it, just it's like this guy's doing something pretty special here, I think, and it can't come soon enough.
yeah, I'm with you. I just hope it's good. Again, let's hope they tell a good story. Like everyone at first was all concerned about Robert Pattinson because the Twilight boy and all this stuff, and like they obviously have never watched any of his movies.
Right.
Yeah.
We've gone through how many Batman castings now, and we still run into the issue of,
Yeah.
oh no, this casting's terrible. Like nobody knows.
He was in that one
just
movie like
calm
12
down.
years ago. Like
Yeah.
that I didn't
yeah.
like.
Well,
Heath Ledger was in Brokeback Mountain. You're telling me he's going to be the Joker? No way. Blah blah blah. And
I
then
don't
the
want a
most
gay
iconic
Joker.
performance. Yeah, the most iconic performance ever in my mind.
The best one, yeah. Like
Joker, yeah.
an
Mhm.
Oscar-winning performance.
Oscar winning, yeah.
Just like that's two Jokers who've won Oscars. Like
He laid, yeah, and he kind of I don't think we ever get Joaquin Phoenix's Joker movie if Heath Ledger doesn't change the public perception and give the
He set the
public a
groundwork.
completely different way of seeing. I mean, the Joker up until that point was, in the common person. Now comic book readers have had different iterations of the Joker. They've had the Dark Knight version. They've had the, darker version that killed Robin over the years. But for the general public, I mean, you had Cesar Romero's cackling, joke prankster in the Batman 66, TV series and film.
mhm.
And then you had, Jack Nicholson's kind of scenery chewing, kind of over the top Joker in the Burton movie. You didn't have this kind of really dark, very, very psychological take on the Joker until you got to Ledger, and he just changed the game for that.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Really, like I said before, I think it was either on stream or I think it was on stream this past. Yeah, it was the other day. But like Heath Ledger, pre Joker, was always like one of my favorite actors because I loved A Knight's Tale like more than most
Such
people.
a good movie.
Yeah,
Like such an underrated movie. I think people get lost in the uniqueness of it,
Mhm.
but man, it's so good.
dude, and like Paul Bettany's amazing in that movie.
Yes.
Yep.
Alan Tudyk is in that movie with them. Like it's
I always
so
forget
good.
that Paul Bettany was in that. Yeah, it's so
They
good.
were amazing. And then I even loved 10 Things I Hate About You. Like that was like I watched both of those movies I think more than anybody else. Like and liked them more than anybody else. Cuz like Heath Ledger was like that was pretty much the big two things he was in. And he was like
Yeah.
one of my favorite actors, like pre going to Joker. So when everyone else was freaking out about the Brokeback Mountain guy, it was like but he's also in this other stuff, and he's really good too, and he was really good in Brokeback Mountain, guys. Like,
Yeah.
just watch the movie. It's a really good movie. Like,
Yeah.
watch it. And like, he comes out and knocks out a park. Like, it's just like I don't think anybody will ever say that wasn't the most memorable comic book performance. Really, like in general, like everyone still refers to Heath's Joker. Like to this day,
Yeah.
when Leto got announced, well, is it going to be as good as Heath, or it's not going to come close to what Heath did? And it's like, yeah, you remember back in 2007 when this was announced, before you all
Yeah.
saw the movie in 2008, you were hating on this, just like Batfleck. It's
Yep.
like, oh, Ben
Just
Affleck.
like Michael, like people forget because the internet wasn't around. Like people hated Michael Keaton. That was sacrilege. That Michael Keaton, Mr. Mom.
Right.
For those that aren't old enough to remember, Michael Keaton had done his almost claim to fame at that point was this sitcom movie where he played a dad because Lord knows dads can't stay home and take care of the kids. But in the 1980s, that was the big, oh, what a crazy concept. He's going to be the dad that stays home and takes care of the kids. And this zany, wacky comedy called Mr. Mom. And he had come off of Beetlejuice too. He played the wacky, zany main character in Beetlejuice. And people hated Michael Keaton. Like it was like people were calling for boycotts of the movie, writing in. This was back when people had to pull out a pen and paper and write their letters into WB and stuff, like
A
before
lot
they
of
could just
effort.
hop online. Yeah, right. And people they hated it. But like I've gotten this off track, but this all goes back to like I can't believe people have gotten so wrapped up. I mean, like have not learned the lessons of don't judge these actors and before we actually get to see them on screen.
I do feel like too, because I did bring this up about Pattinson, but ironically, I feel like there's been a lot less chatter about like Pattinson playing Batman as I even
Yeah.
expected. Because
Battinson.
there was at first, like there was
Yeah.
the Twilight Boy things was totally there at first, but honestly, I think what made him shut up was that trailer.
Yeah, the trailer was
Like,
great.
Good point.
I think that trailer came out just like honestly, the same thing happened with The Dark Knight. Like they released
Yeah.
that first trailer with Heath's dialogue, he's over the whole thing. He's the like monologuing the trailer. It was like you've
Yeah.
changed things thing. Like
Yeah.
and like
Forever.
everybody, like you didn't hear one single person saying Brokeback Mountain Boy after that. Like everyone
Yeah.
was like, okay, we'll just see what happens.
Yeah.
But I think people are like, maybe they are starting to learn. Like, oh, maybe I'll wait till I see it, then give them shit. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll just have to wait and see, though. But yeah, Robert Pattinson's fantastic, and that trailer, that was great. Like I've said before too. Before we move on, like they even came out and said, like at Fandom, that when they released that trailer, they had only shot 25% of the movie, and they were able to cobble together that good of a trailer with 25% of their footage. Like you said, that makes me kind of feel like this is going to be like a special movie at that point. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping. I mean, Batman's mine and many people's favorite character. So if it's not good, we're gonna hear about it. So we're gonna hear about it. So, my question is, guys, what do you think about this kind of this information from Matt Reeves sitting here saying that it's this movie in some ways, and maybe the overarching trilogy because he was kind of vague in it in that way, but it's more of an origin for the Rogues Gallery. Like none of the Rogues Gallery have fully developed into what their comic book iteration, final form is, if you know what I mean. So. But yeah, I think it's a good way to go, and it kind of makes sense in a more grounded, realistic way that like maybe the media or the police or somebody closely investigating these characters and the events they're doing, their little bad actions. Maybe they just name them kind of off the cuff. So I think it's a good approach if they do it that route, but who knows? We'll just have to wait and see. But whatever you think, let us know down in the comment section below. All right, guys. So our next main topic here today is going to kick us over to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And unfortunately, shortly after our show last week, it was like later on that day after the show went up. I think it was the next day. It was either later the day or the next day. Marvel dropped this big sizzle reel thing that had everybody talking, and they showed the first like clips of first shots. It wasn't really. I've seen a lot of people really blowing up or blowing things out of proportion with like the Eternal stuff. Like people are just like the Eternals looks amazing. It's like 3 seconds of Eternals footage in this thing. I'm like, you don't know anything about this movie still. Like we're all still in the dark here. Like so all you're really saying is like Angelina Jolie looks great and like Rob Stark, forget his name, he looks great. Like, Kumon and Johnny, he looks great. He's ripped now. Like, that's really all you're saying. Like, you didn't see enough about it. Now, granted, I do think the movies are gonna be amazing just because we have an Oscar-winning director directing the movie. So, I have some pretty high hopes for it that it's at least gonna be good. And then we also have, like, a bunch of people at Marvel themselves are, like, saying that Eternals is the best movie that they've done, which is a pretty big statement when you're the Marvel Cinematic Universe to say, like, out of all 20 some odd other movies, highest grossing movies of all time, that this one's the best from, like, the inside sources. That's a pretty big statement, so I'm definitely excited to see it. But they released this thing, it's a kind of a it was very good. It had, like, Stan Lee's, kinda, like, voice going over the first like intro portion of it, like talking about like going, pretty much just going back to movies kind of thing. And like, like that person over there is your brother, that person over there is your sister, whatever. It was really nice little dialogue over it. People, I don't know why if you guys heard about this too, but some little sour pusses out there were also talking like, oh, they just were cashing in on Stan Lee and just using like Stan Lee cashed in on Stan Lee. He was the biggest proponent of cashing in his own he put himself in all the movies. Like, no one was cashing in on Stan Lee. This was Stan Lee was, like, the guy. He made all the stuff. Like, I don't understand, like, it's all his stuff.
Right.
Like, it's honoring him, if anything. So, I don't know,
Yeah.
like, I feel like people try to find something to complain
He is
about.
Marvel.
Yeah, like, he made all him and Jack Kirby, like, made pretty much all of the freaking Marvel characters that you're watching. Like, I don't
Yeah,
know, it was sweet.
it wasn't like Stan left the company and had this bad falling out where he didn't want anything to do with Marvel. Like he was Marvel through and through. Like he
Yeah,
knows
for sure.
how much of his DNA is in those characters and in those stories. And I never knew Stan personally, but I mean, just knowing what he did and how his I actually got to meet Stan one time, which one of my fondest memories. But just seeing him in interviews and stuff over the years and stuff, and the way he carried himself and the way he talked about the characters and stuff, like I find it exceptionally hard to believe, unless somebody that was real close to him came out and said something. I find it exceptionally hard to believe that you know he would not be thrilled they were still using his voice and his connection, his personality to promote these things. I thought, like you said, I thought it was a very touching, like tribute almost in a way to him.
It was, dude. It was just because, like, it's a thing. Like, if you're a big fan, obviously, like someone like me, for instance, like there were bits and pieces of here, just like as you're watching, like you could get emotional, and it was like,
I was just about to
like
say, like, I they hit me right in the like unexpectedly so. Like I heard it, I heard his voice, and you start smiling, and he goes on, and like, oh man, it gets you. Like it got me.
yeah, it got me. Like I wasn't crying, but I was just like, this is really sweet. Like this is really good. Like, I like this.
No, man, like that. I mean, that fondness and that realizing, I don't know, just revisiting that whole era and what all those films have meant so far, and how intrinsically stand. I mean, that was one of the hardest things in the world was watching that first movie that he didn't have a cameo in, and like
Yeah.
you knew it was coming. Like, you see his last cameo was it Captain Marvel was his last cameo. Um,
Was that or Far From Home? It was one of the two, I think.
Yeah, and
Can't
you
remember.
watch it and you realize that was his last one, and like at that moment you're kind of like, wow, this is so. Yeah, I mean
It
that's
was a
crazy.
bit
I actually
bittersweet.
hadn't
Yeah.
heard that. I'm sorry, I'm kind of going off on a ramble here because I hadn't heard that yet, and I'm kind of processing the idea that someone would say that about that.
Well, that's what I was saying, man. Like, no matter what anymore, like, kind of like you were saying, like with the Michael Keaton thing, like the internet didn't exist. So, like, but like nowadays it does. So, like, there's people like you hear comments from people like I don't know, like you hear everything anymore. Like, even if you're not looking for it, because by no means was I looking for it. You come across the stuff, and everyone's always got something to say anymore. And it's all like no matter where you turn, there's always some like it baffles me like in some ways like for instance There's 6,000 downvotes on this video, the Marvel one. Like, this is from Marvel's YouTube channel. 6,000 people out there downvoted this, and I'm just like, how are you disliking this? Like,
Yeah.
what is like? Because ironically enough, like me even like have a YouTube channel here. I don't think I've ever disliked anything on YouTube.
I haven't either.
Like, I really don't, because I don't know, like,
I don't care that much.
I don't care. It's
Yeah,
like,
I just
why-
click on to the next video.
Yeah,
like,
Yeah.
it makes no difference to me. Like, what if? And that's the thing. It's like, if I don't like it, then I just won't watch it.
why are
Like,
you
yeah.
watching it?
Yeah, it's
Turn
like
it off and move on to the next.
yeah, it's like you just like people like just like hate watching things. Like Marvel posted something, dislike.
Right.
It's like
Some people
dude,
just want to watch
God.
the world burn.
I know, but it's like, man, like, don't you have anything better to do? Like, because I just don't understand. Like, what do you not like about like this? like, it's so weird. Like, there's even like, it's honestly, there's even videos that we've posted that gets like a downvote or two on it. I'm just like, what is that? Was all I did was talk about the news. Like,
Some
it's like
people are
not
just-
an opinionated piece. Like, I'm just like, yeah, there's set photos here. There, okay, in video.
Somebody,
Dislike.
some
Like,
people
fuck
just
did I do?
they just like being edgy, and
I
that's the
know.
problem. Like it's just, I don't know how else to put it. Really, it's just they like to come off that way. It's almost like trolling,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like I've got friends in my life that are like that are just like negative about everything, and it's kind of annoying.
It's gotta be so difficult to be like that negative all the time, man.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus Christ. Like, that's the thing. It's like, if you're like, obviously, I'm just kind of splitting hairs here. Like, you can dislike a YouTube video if you want. You can dislike this one. I don't give a shit. But it's to like wake up and like watch something like this video, for instance, too. Like I said, like me and you, John, we said we got emotional watching this, and there's people out there disliking this. Like,
Yeah.
God, how bad must your life be?
Right.
Like, for you to be like offended by this or something, like who wronged you, man?
Yeah,
like,
who hurt?
Yeah.
like, yeah, like, Jesus, like, I feel kind of bad for you because like you must be having it rough. Like, for the something heartwarming, like it's like those videos like with the donations to like the hurt animals and like in the arms of an angel, they play the dogs like freaking and
Those
like
commercials suck.
I know, because it made you want to donate, and you're like in tears by the end of the video.
Yeah, looking at all these like
Yeah.
dogs that look like they're crying basically, and just
Yeah, and there's people
This
out
is
there
sick.
who would be downvoting that shit. Like,
Right.
it's just like, Jesus Christ.
I'd only
man.
downvote that just because of like what they're trying to do with what they're doing. Like, just like we use these pictures and videos, you'll send.
Oh
us
yeah,
money.
manipulating you.
Yeah, like yeah.
For sure. But that's what all movie trailers
Damn,
are.
you just asked me for the money. I'll give you some
Yeah, right.
money. Don't make me feel terrible.
Yeah,
About
Yeah,
it.
right.
stop making me. I like have to turn away when that commercial comes
Yeah.
on.
It's like I didn't want to cry. I will donate though. Like,
I'll give you some money. Just chill, please,
Right.
please. I
Right.
know there's bad things in the world. Unfortunately, I'm one person. I can't fix them all.
Right. Oh man. But yeah, the Eternal stuff, like I said, this is you didn't really get to see much of it, but I think before I forget, before we move on, notable absences in this whole thing, though. I mentioned it on Discord. Was there's no Captain America 4, no Blade, no X-Men anything, which was to be expected. Like, in all honesty, they did have the 4 come up for Fantastic Four, but they didn't actually say Fantastic Four. So it's like, are they just using the 4 for Phase 4? Or were they
No, I
really
think-
doing
I think
Fantastic Four with that?
I think that's the film that's going to cap this phase off.
You think so?
Yeah, because I mean, Feige already announced that movie was coming, and that was the exact same logo that they used at.
But
the
they didn't have the lettering on it. They did on the first announcement. That's what I thought was interesting. They just had the number 4 at the end.
Yeah,
'Cause you know
I
what
know.
it is.
I just, yeah.
I'm
think
with
they're
you. I
just-
do think it still means they're going to do it. Like, but I
Yeah.
find it interesting. It's like a notable absence to end it with that same 4 logo, but not
Mhm.
actually say Fantastic Four. I was just
Yeah,
like,
I think it was just a
hmm.
clever way of wrapping everything together there at the end.
Right.
Plus, it's like I said, the M1. But
Yeah, no, I did. That's where my mind was going initially with it.
the most shocking thing to me, I think, of all this, like I'll say this, like Kevin Feige strikes again. Man, that dude is
Yeah.
just like, okay, you're going to release you're coming back to theaters. It's been a long time. The pandemic has really knocked theaters on their butt. People, haven't been in a long time. Like, how do we promote our movie? Well, they could have dropped a brand new Black Widow trailer, and that hype alone probably would have carried it. They dropped the Shang-Chi trailer, and that got people hyped up for that. They could have just all they could have done was drop a Eternals trailer, and that could have been the hype alone that they needed to get people, back into the theaters. But no, they do this like retrospective, heartfelt, amazing, like, remember all these things you love. Remember how special it was to go to the theaters over this past decade and watch these characters that you came to love. Like, remember that? Well, guess what? We know the pandemic was rough. We know it was hard, but we're back, and we're committed to bringing you those exact same experiences, those exact same feelings, those exact same adventures, going forward. And like, just what a smart way to start getting people excited again and ramp up the even though people are already excited after Wanda and WandaVision and Cap and the Winter Soldier or Falcon and Winter Soldier, like, just such a smart play on his part. And then also to drop in like key details that everybody's talking about, like the name of the next Black Panther 2 and the name of the next Captain Marvel movie. We get Wakanda Forever and we get the Marvels. So like, just, I don't know. I'm in awe of that guy, and thank God he's out there in the world, and he's doing such a great job, with this. But the one other thing I will say is because it will be brought up ad nauseum until it happens. Like, Kevin Feige, I think I think in my estimation, this should close the book on any talk of an X-Men or mutants in the MCU until 2024, 2025, maybe at the earliest. Because I think we're going to go through all of Phase 4 without mutants. And I think that's just fine. I think Kevin Feige realizes the biggest franchise to come out, the biggest Marvel franchise that was out there besides the MCU was the X-Men franchise at Fox. And I think he feels, and I believe rightly so, that we need some distance, that we need to have maybe a few years, 2, 3, 4 years without the X-Men and without mutants being center stage in film. And then, they have an opportunity to bring them back in a grand manner at some point down the road.
Dude, speaking of which, because you brought up a good point here. With the X-Men, when the X-Men finally do come, if Kevin Feige could call you and ask you, John, I'm making X-Men, who's the core X-Men characters I should have and to kick off the MCU X-Men? Who's your lineup for like the intro movie? Who's going to kick off the team?
I think you look to the 90s era X-Men. I think you look to the animated series. I think you look to the Jim Lee 90s it's Claremont,
Chris Claremont,
maybe Chris Claremont, Byrne, that era X-Men. And so,
John Byrne.
I think, John Byrne. I think you look to Wolverine, Logan, you look to Storm, you look to Scott Summers, you look to Jean Grey, Iceman.
Notable characters that people understand and know and have relationships with.
Yeah, definitely. You may be able to throw in like maybe a Bishop would be kind of cool to throw in there. It just depends on how comfortable you are and with how big of a roster and introducing the characters on screen. So, but yeah, that's kind of my, the one nice thing about having Fox having had the X-Men franchise is that you could not be as precise or as they don't necessarily need a complete origin story. You can gloss over the origin story maybe to some degree, because for the general audience there is at least some component of knowledge of who these characters are because of the X-Men franchise from Fox. So We'll see. But that's kind of the era I would look at for that. Psylocke, and I think would be a cool one to add in there. So we'll see.
Yeah, I would definitely.
You guys,
I like the idea of going to like the '90s team and all, like the
That would be
animated
cool.
team.
That was a great show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's for a lot
That's
of
what I think
people.
of when I think of X-Men.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. For a lot of people, it's like their definitive X-Men is still that '90s show.
They used to sell
Mhm.
the VHS tapes at Pizza Hut.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's
I
awesome.
remember I had like 5 of them, I think. Yeah,
That's amazing.
I'm talking like 93, 94.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
that was back when restaurants actually gave you when fast food joints gave you actual cool toys and stuff.
Dude, they used to
too.
have some really
Yeah.
cool toys.
Yeah, you remember
Yeah.
those glass cups from Batman Forever?
I had all
and
of
they
them.
had like the Riddler handle on it.
Yeah,
like,
that
it
was so
logo.
cool.
They were
Dude,
dope,
They were
dude.
like glass mugs.
Yeah, they were cool.
If it wasn't gonna take me like 10 minutes to go dig them out, I'd go pull one out for you right now.
So
'cause
I
they are
used
wanna
to have
buy
them
one.
like just a couple years ago, and like now they're
Yeah,
gone.
I've
We
got
had the
'em.
one with like
I've got 'em
Two-Face
all.
on it.
Yeah.
and
Oh
Those were
yeah,
cool,
the
man.
the handles were decorative, like engraved handles
Yeah.
too on
They
them.
really put a
Yeah,
lot of
they're
effort
great.
into those.
Yeah, they really did. I mean, it took some effort to get those made, and like, I mean, you got them for friggin' McDonald's, dude. It's crazy.
Remember like
Yeah.
the Star Wars toys at like, what was it, like Taco Bell and Pizza Hut,
Oh, yeah.
KFC? Like there's just so much cool stuff from back.
I know.
Yeah.
It's a shame. Now
I
the
know, it
coolest thing
sucks.
they do is you get like Pokemon cards, and it's like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
the same Pokemon card that everyone's getting.
no, they're exclusive.
Yeah.
Oh, are they?
They're exclusive. Yeah, they're exclusive to the McDonald's.
Well, I mean, but yeah, but anybody.
But
can
everyone
get
that
'em.
goes to McDonald's gets that one.
Yeah,
it's not-
right,
yeah.
right. Yeah, but it's not one you can just get. Like,
Well, it's like-
they have to go and get it from there
I
in the
remember-
window. You know.
Back in the day, the most elusive Pokemon card for a long time was Ancient Mew. Then one of the Pokemon movies comes out. You get one for buying a ticket. Everybody.
Yeah,
had
you got it
Ancient
given
Mew.
to you. I
Yeah,
think.
like, and it's just that's kind of like how that is. But
So just a quick side note, because we were talking about it. The kids get Happy Meals, and the one kid he's kind of aged up. The Happy Meal doesn't give him enough food anymore. But McDonald's was releasing. He's really into Pokemon, and McDonald's was releasing the Pokemon cards recently. In the past, what we've done is if he wanted one of the toys, we just have him add a toy. A lot of people, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but at McDonald's, you're able to just add a Happy Meal toy. It's like $1 or $1.50 or whatever. You can just buy the toy. You don't have to get the whole meal with it. So when he'd want food, we get him a regular meal and just add a toy onto it. And when we went to do that Pokemon cards, so many people were like buying them up or hoarding them or collecting them or
You couldn't do
investing
it.
in them, that McDonald's canceled that policy. Like you could no longer add the extra toy, or in this
That's
case,
stupid.
the Pokemon card to a meal.
Yeah.
You
They were
had to buy
limiting
the
sales
Happy-
too.
To
They
one,
were-
yeah.
Yeah, so it
It's
was either one or
crazy.
two, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Like, I think if you went in and visibly had 2 children with you, they'd give you 2, obviously. But,
Yeah.
like, yeah, they were limiting it to, like, 1 or 2 per order kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
were they holographic?
I think they were some holographic. I don't even know which one it was.
Yeah.
Like, I have
Yeah,
no
There's so
idea.
many freaking Pokemon now.
Yeah, I mean, now there's, like, 800 different Pokemon, so and, like, fuck, it could have been, like, a brand new one made just for this. I don't know.
McDonald's
Right.
Mom or something.
I never understood. It just made me think of McDonald's. I don't know why people call it that.
Yeah,
I'm
McDonald's.
going to the McDonald's.
Well, in Europe, or no, not Europe. Yeah, England and Australia, they call it Maccas. Maccas. Like,
Yeah,
you want to go
weird
to
too.
Macca's?
That's
don't know
weird.
why. I mean, it's called McDonald's still there, but people just
Yeah.
refer to it as Macca's.
I went to a McDonald's in Italy, in Rome.
I
It was a really nice McDonald's.
went to one in Germany.
Yeah.
It was very nice.
It was way nicer than any of
And the
them around
food's
here.
slightly different.
They had a lot more. Yeah, they had different order. They had different combo like options for sure.
All I could think about when you guys were talking about this is Pulp
This is getting
Fiction.
weird.
Yeah,
Royale
Royale
with
with
cheese.
cheese. This is getting
for
weird.
sure. Well, back to the topic here at hand. Well, we got to talk about Wakanda Forever and the Marvel
Marvels.
things. I do have something to say about that, but I'm gonna with the X-Men thing before we move on. I want to answer the roster question because
Yeah.
I really would go with, like I said, like the '90s would be the best way to do it in my opinion. So I would have like pretty much just like in the show, your core members. You know, your Scott Summers, your Cyclops, your Jean, your
Jubilee.
Beast. Well, We'll get to Jubilee, but your Beast and your Wolverine and like Gambit needs to be in it. Gambit's like the best fucking one, man. You can have Gambit in there, and you have he could be like kind of your dude who kind of shows in and pops in and out, like kind of like they did with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. And he was kind of like a lone wolf, you know. Make that Gambit, man. Make him be like kind of just like he just comes and goes. He's a weirdo. That's what he should be. Like he's just this weird Cajun dude. He comes in, he throws cards, and then
He's got some card tricks.
he's just gone. Like do something like that with him. Make him
Weird
interesting.
Cajun dude.
Yeah, I mean, make him interesting. Make him kind of dark and creepy looking. I don't know. Not looking. Make him handsome. I don't give a shit what he looks like. But do that, but then have like kind of like they tried to sort of do in the like the Fox ones, where like those core members there are like the older fellas, and then you have all the kids there. But I'd say actually like they never had until like later they kind of threw him in. But like Jubilee eventually made an appearance in those movies, but she was never like a main character. Like she never like had a story or anything. Like so I would say, and then they made Bobby, who like made Iceman, who was one of the actual original X-Men characters,
Yeah.
a kid at the school. Like no, don't do that. Make Iceman Iceman. Like he should be his own thing. Like have him be like he's an established person who maybe he's just not always at the school all the time, just like Gambit. But these are main core characters to your overall story. But have your Scott Summers and all them actually like training some young people and make those like the actual interesting ones. Like if you want to take some liberties and maybe say Psylocke is like younger, then do it. But find an interesting way to like do something new and fresh with it. So if you want to like de-age some of them because it really doesn't matter, then do that. But actually have, like you said, the ones that people know. Like your Psylocke, your Jubilees, your Gambits. Like I think just all those people should be in it. But the one thing they absolutely need to do is make Cyclops the leader of the damn team and make him like Cyclops. That was the one thing they destroyed with those movies. They made like Wolverine was great, Hugh Jackman was great. A lot of the other ones,
Jean Grey was so weird.
they really didn't do that great of a job with Jean either. Like in all honesty,
Yeah.
not like it was very much a departure from what Jean really is. You can clearly tell they spent most of their time on Wolverine with those
Yeah.
movies. I mean, he was the best thing really to come out of them, so I don't really blame them. But I mean, even from the start of that movie, it starts with Logan.
Yeah,
Like
I
that's
mean,
how it
the
comes
movies
in.
could have been called Wolverine and the X-Men.
Yeah, like that
he could have
cartoon from the
gotten-
2000s.
Yeah, it could have been billed as a Wolverine series with the
100%.
X-Men co-starring. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the only thing I would like to see them switch up, is make it an X-Men centric movie. But to do that, you need the X-Men characters. Like
Right.
you need to actually put them in the movie and like have them doing stuff. So like pretty much how they teased the end of Apocalypse, I think it was, where they were all training in the training room together with the most comic accurate appearances they ever had. Like they all had the blue suits on, Cyclops had the blue and yellow on. Like that's what we wanted to see, man. But we all these movies and we never really got it.
What movie was that?
It was like the very last scene of X-Men Apocalypse. Like I'm
Mhm.
talking like a post-credits kind of scene. It's the movie ends with them. They're all in the training room and they're, like I said, they weren't comic accurate to a T, but they were the most comic accurate we had gotten. So that's what we need to do. Just make it a true X-Men character. But definitely, I'm totally in agreement. Take some liberties from the, influence rather from the 90s show, because it's so definitive X-Men for so many people. It would, I don't necessarily mean you have to do like the costumes, but I would really love them to actually adapt the costume in some way, which Marvel has definitely been doing. So I am hoping to see that. But before we move on, though, let's talk Wakanda Forever. I think that's a great title, and it does kind of. It doesn't really say much about where it's going, but it does give you some idea of what they're gonna be focusing on. You know what I mean? Like it's like gonna be. It seems like it. Granted, titles really mean nothing. Like obviously, the title's just like a trailer. It's just marketing. It's just there to make you want to see it. Like it's there just to whatever. Like some things are just called Iron Man 2.
Mhm.
Like if you subtitled it, it doesn't really mean anything. Like Spider-Man Homecoming. He went to Homecoming. Yeah, it doesn't really mean
Yeah.
anything. So
Far From Home, he's in Paris.
yeah, you know what I mean? Like it's just they're just marketing tools for the most part. But with this, it makes it seem like it's gonna be very Wakanda centric, and it's gonna focus on, like, where's Wakanda at now? And there's gonna be something meaningful, and it would make sense for this one. And honestly, with the Marvels thing, like, the Marvels, that also with them adding the Ms. Marvel S at the end, that
Hmm.
actually does kind of give you an idea of where they're going with it. So, like, granted, these could mean anything, but this is an interesting approach for Captain Marvel 2 because before we assumed like Photon, Monica Rambeau would be in it, and then we assumed that since they're doing the Miss Marvel show that like she would make an appearance in it. But most people thought that like Monica Rambeau wouldn't be getting her powers until Captain Marvel 2. But she got it in WandaVision. And then same kind of goes for the Ms. Marvel show. I mean, we had no idea what they were doing with that, and we just saw the set photos. Like she's in full costume garb. So
Yeah.
she's obviously going to be established to some degree too. So they could go a lot of ways with this, so it's gonna be kinda interesting. It's definitely intriguing that they're calling it this, implying that, we're gonna have those 3 at least those 3 characters in it, and it's kinda like it just reminded me of Shazam, and how at the end of Shazam, the whole Marvel family was there.
Yeah.
Like, they all were there, and now it's like, "Oh, the Marvels." Like, there they are. But yeah, there was really nothing other than Quantumania, we knew that was happening. Guardians Volume 3 and then the 4 logo. So, what did you guys think about the Wakanda Forever being the title and,
I think
the
it's good.
Marvels thing?
I think I don't know much about Marvels or Captain Marvel or anything like that really, but Wakanda Forever seems like it's a good title, especially with like I don't know, it's a pretty solid, like heavy sounding title, I think, and especially with like the passing of Chadwick Boseman and all that. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they do with it.
It's very fitting too because it honestly, like, not only, like, the implications of it like, due to Chadwick's, like, unfortunate passing and everything, but it was also a very popular, like, catchphrase from the movie. Like,
Yeah.
everybody was
Yeah.
going around saying "Wakanda forever." Like, Black Panther said it all the time himself. You know what I mean? So
Right.
and that's why I think, like, I mean, they all said it. Like, all the Wakandans said it. It was like their battle cry. It was
Yeah.
also like a salute, like, all the time. So
Mhm.
that's why I'm thinking it makes it seem like it's gonna be very Wakanda centric. Like, it's gonna be about, like, Wakanda, like, as
Hmm.
opposed to I mean, it is called Black Panther, but you can see Black Panther is actually quite small in this, and, like, Wakanda Forever is the big catchy part, so that's what I'm
Yeah.
obviously, again, just a title, I'm probably reading too much into it, but to me, it was good. It got my mind, my wheels spinning, but what are your thoughts
Yeah.
before we move on, John?
Yeah. I mean, the Wakanda Forever. I mean, the one thing that obviously it ties very nicely into the phrase that resonated with a lot of people coming out of the first move film, and Chadwick, Black Panther, it's his battle cry when they go up against Thanos in Infinity War. So it's fitting that that's the next, and I think there's the subtle implication too, the use of the word forever. The tragic passing of Chadwick, but his mark on the film and his mark on the universe and the fans is going to last forever. I like that. It's a subtle thing, and I'm not even sure if it was intentional, but I feel like there's a part of me that wants that to be part of what they were going for too. Is just a subtle way of honoring what he had done.
No, it's like
And
it's
then
meaningful. Yeah. Like, it seems
yeah,
like it could be
yeah,
meaningful for sure, yeah.
yeah.
I'm in the same boat
Um,
there.
and then it also just story wise, I think is beautifully fits in with where the film was going at the end of the first film. And at the end of the first film, you know, T'Challa has decided that Wakanda is not going to just be this contained, isolated country in Africa, that they are going to go out into the world and they're going to influence the world, and their legacy is going to resonate across the world forever. And so it will be interesting to see the Wakanda part of it really leave its mark and see how its influence has grown across the MCU world, and how they've helped reshape things. How their influence has helped in the wake of things like the snap, the blip, as they refer to it in the MCU, and how their work in different communities has elevated those communities, and the challenges that they've faced, I think, is probably something that they will touch upon in those communities, because they don't seem like the Marvel universe doesn't seem like they're going to shy away from relevant social topics and things of that nature. So I think all of it just it's a great title just on face value, but I think there's a lot of subtleties to it that will play nicely into the film. And then, like you said, with the Marvels, a brilliant use again. Whoever does their design work, brilliant use of the Ms. Marvel S at the end of it, not making it just a straight Captain Marvel 2 sequel, but tying in the design elements there, and giving us kind of this sneak peek of this expanded roster, or these expanded heroes that are going to be appearing in that.
For sure. Like, I totally agree. I think it's gonna be and the other thing too, I guess we should mention before I move on, is like we got like dates for everything too, for most things anyway.
Sure.
Like, so that was good. Like with July 8th, like 2022,
I
that's, I mean, that's just like a year away.
I'll mention this. I actually I think I went through each film individually. I believe that, if based off this schedule, that we will have a new Marvel film every other month, with the exception of the break between the one that comes out, like there's one that comes out June or July of next year, and then the following one doesn't come out until November. So I believe there's that we almost get a new Marvel film every other month for like the next 2 or 3 years.
Well,
It's
then,
just like, it just made me giddy and smile.
It's
It
a
made
lot of
my day.
movies.
The rest of the day, I was like, oh, this is so good. Plus, then you have the Disney Plus stuff.
yep. And I was gonna
Yeah.
say too, there's 4 DC movies next year too.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, it's true.
DC says there are, but
That's
DC's
true.
track record of
That's
any
fair.
is
They talk
not as
big
good as
game.
Marvel's.
I can't argue that.
They do talk a big game.
There's supposed to be 4 DC movies next year. And then like at least the Peacemaker show. So there's
True.
gonna be like 5 DC titles potentially, then at least 4 Marvel movies in addition to whatever their Disney Plus stuff is. And then on top of that, the Star Wars stuff. Like, we're gonna at least have a season or 2 of Star Wars TV as well. It's gonna be a big year next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a big year.
Moved
Um,
COVID.
I hope
Yeah.
my long lost billionaire uncle, leaves me something in his fortune, because I need to be able to quit my job to keep up with all this stuff.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say too, like, think of all the hot toys we're gonna be getting.
So
Oh my
much
God.
content, so many things. Yes, so many toys, so many collectibles. Oh
Like,
man.
Jesus, man. This is why, like I
Whatever.
was
I'm
saying,
not complaining at all. I'm not. Bring it
Right.
on. I'll take it.
You're not complaining, your bank account's complaining. Your retirement fund is complaining more so than anything. But that's what I was saying, with the Marvel stuff. This is one of the reasons I don't wanna collect the Marvel Hot Toys, man. There's just so many of them, and there's
Yeah,
just
no,
more
no joke.
coming. Like, it's
Yeah.
crazy. I mean, and then I think I made the comment the other day, I think I said this on stream, but then at the same time, I chose to do Star Wars. Which is like,
As if
there's
that's ever gonna
more.
die
Like
down.
every
or-
Yeah, there's like more Star Wars stuff. So I don't know. It's that's why I can't double down on it. Like, I
Yeah.
can't do it. But either way, question is, those guys, what did you think about this? Did you think this little sizzle reel here was did it get you emotionally like it did me and John? Like, I wasn't weeping or anything, but like, it got me.
Yeah,
Like, I was
sure.
like, oh, I was weeping. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it was after honestly though, the real thing that got it too was after 2020 and the absence of like Marvel stuff, like for the most part, it was really meaningful just alone as a fan for that. Like, if you take away the Stan Lee dialogue over top of it and all that, just like the flashbacks, just like the little sizzle reel of, all the stuff that they've done and stuff like that alone was just nice because we had so little of it this past year. So I like that in general. So whatever you thought about this though, and obviously, like I said too, at the end, like all the actual release dates for things, the Fantastic Four teaser there at the end again, let us know what you think down in the comment section below. All right, guys. So our penultimate topic here, it's actually 3 topics I'm condensing into kind of one overall topic just in an effort of saving time because we've been running kind of long here. So right after this little segment, we're going to go into a Bad Batch kind of spoilerish discussion I'm not going to say spoilerish because there will be we will be discussing what occurs in the show. So there will be spoilers, but to me, it's not really a kind of show, like, it's not like WandaVision where you, like, I don't know. The things happen and they just kinda happen. I mean, it's not really like, "Oh, I can't believe you ruined it. I can't believe Bruce Willis was a ghost at the," it's not really that kind of story, so either way. But these next 3 topics are still in the world of the MCU-ish. 'Cause the first one, we got here, Andrew Garfield was doing an interview, and the guy just came out and like asked him like, "So what's up with these rumors about Spider-Man 3? Are you in it? There's been rumors of you and Toby going to be in it with we got Alfred Molina. We're coming back as Doc Ock. Jamie Foxx has said he's coming back as Electro." And obviously, the other rumors kind of spurred that. Okay, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, they're in it too. And Andrew Garfield flat out says he's not in it. He didn't get the call. So, and he says like, if I was gonna be in it, then I would have got a call by now. But I mean, as John stated earlier, it could be playing coy. The actors, they're not really allowed to say these kind of things if he's under lock and key. Because like I will note that shortly after this interview, I think it was the next day, he was doing another interview, and someone asked him the same question, and he answered it very differently. Like he didn't say like, "Oh yeah, I'm totally in it." He said something more along the lines of now I forget what he said. But he just like kind of casually said no, which was like very, very different than he was very exaggerated in this interview. Like it was just a very different comment. So that's just kind of one thing to note. Another topic here, or the other little mini story here is that Doctor Strange. A lot of people were wondering, like, why was he absent from WandaVision, especially considering the fact that he is the Sorcerer Supreme and she is a magic user, and normally, something like occurring, like the events of WandaVision, like her, like the level of power, magical power at that she was putting on display there, probably would have piqued the interest of said Sorcerer Supreme. Now, there are also narrative reasons you could come up with as to why he wasn't there because, you got to think this was very shortly after everybody returned from being dusted. So he's probably got a lot of work to do as the Sorcerer Supreme in general. But the biggest reason that kind of everybody should really just kind of get through their heads is that this was Wanda's show. Like, you know what I mean? And Falcon and Winter Soldier, it took place in New York. Doctor Strange is in New York too. So is Spider-Man. Like, they didn't show up in that because it was Falcon and Winter Soldier story. That's like the biggest flaw that comes with these shared cinematic universe things is like you're watching, a Spider-Man movie and everyone's just like, why didn't the Avengers come and help him? What the Spider-Man story? That's why. Like and a lot of times it's just that simple. That's I love shared cinematic universes. Don't get me wrong. But we go through every movie, like Aquaman. Why didn't Superman come help him? Because it's an Aquaman movie. Like, that's why. But Kevin Feige actually did have some comments as to why he wasn't in this, and he did reveal that he actually was supposed to be initially in, like, the first couple of drafts of everything. The most interesting bit in this, in my opinion at least, was that those commercials that were being played during like the show WandaVision part, so not like the show we were watching, but the show she was putting on for like everyone in the outside world, and then those commercials would play. Those commercials that were playing inside the whole sitcom loop were actually initially supposed to be being sent by Doctor Strange to Wanda to like try to get through to her, which was an interesting scenario in the sense that like one of the biggest like looming questions outside like once WandaVision was over was really like what the hell was the point of the commercials? Like why were they happening? And like that question never really gets answered. Like because they were all I mean the one thing you obviously noticed throughout them was that they were all referring to like actual events that happened, outside of this world, things that actually affected Wanda. Like there were references to Sokovia, Hydra, all these things. So it does make sense that, if Doctor Strange like kind of trying to put like an image in her mind to try to snap her out of it, it makes some sense. It still was like kind of a weird choice of him to do to like make them be commercials in the sitcom world, but that would just kind of flow with the narrative, I guess, of what they were telling. So like I can get on board with that. But the things that Kevin Feige did actually say in this interview as well was like some of the de facto reasons as to why Benedict Benedict Cucumber Man did not show up in the show was that primarily it would have taken away from Wanda, which is what we didn't want to do. Which he's absolutely true there. If you would have brought Doctor Strange in, that's all everybody would have been talking about. Like if at the end of the show he's having the whole showdown with Agatha Harkness or Mephisto, if he would have showed up, whoever. But then Doctor Strange comes in. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Now it's this Doctor Strange's thing. And then it also, going into the next comment that he made, was we didn't want the end of the show to be commoditized to go into the next movie. Because we know this is going to, like, this everything that kind of happens here is supposed to flow into Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness. We know that Elizabeth Olsen is reprising her role as Scarlet Witch within that film. So we knew that going into it, that like this and Spider-Man and Doctor Strange were all like connected in some ways. There were other articles saying that Loki was supposed to be connected to it in some ways as well, but we'll just wait and see. But nevertheless, had Doctor Strange showed up into it to save the day, it really would have made it seem like Multiverse of Madness, the prequel, like in a lot of ways. It really would have. Like he's definitely not wrong to say it would have just made it seem like it was a commodity at that point. Like the show only existed to lead into Doctor Strange, the sequel to that. So I totally understand that. And then obviously there's a lot of like fucking people out there who are hanging on to his "here's the white guy, let me show you how her power works" line as some sort of, I don't know, like social justice kind of thing. And it's like, no, because that's what he's saying here is that's exactly what people in like would have written articles about. They would have been like, WandaVision was great all up until, like classically, like any other story, they had to have the white man come in and save the day. It would have happened. Like it totally would have happened. He's not saying that's why they didn't do it. He just kind of did an off the cuff comment of just like, whatever, just like normal speak. So I don't know why there were a lot of people hanging on this line, and this line is meaningless. It means absolutely nothing. Like Marvel has done like 20 some odd movies with white men in the lead, so they don't have anything against white men. Like it's ridiculous. Like I don't know. Moving on though, that's not really the point. So it would have been cool to see Doctor Strange show up, sure, but I totally agree with the decision to take him out. It wasn't really needed by any means, and it totally would have taken away from Wanda, and it really would have made the show itself overall seem like a commodity that just was only there to lead into Doctor Strange 2. And that's it. WandaVision was great. It didn't need any of that. It's good on its own, so I'm glad they took him out. And the last little bit here is that the Loki show, which quickly became my most anticipated Marvel Disney Plus show after the first trailer. I've said this many of times, but Falcon Winter Soldier was always my most anticipated because Winter Soldier is one of my favorite MCU characters. But when Disney did that whole shareholders, press conference thing where they actually debuted the first trailers for, I think we already had a little teaser for WandaVision, but they released the first trailer for Winter Soldier and then the first trailer for Loki. The only trailer that I thought was really good was the Loki one. When I saw the Falcon Winter Soldier one, I was just kind of like, okay. But then I saw that Loki one. Dude, that thing like blew me away. I don't know why. Because it may have just been because my expectations were really low for Loki. They were low key, if you will. I had low key expectations. But I may have had something to do with it, and it's not because I don't like Loki. I love the Loki character. We've just had so many stories with like Tom Hiddleston's Loki in it that I kind of just in my head knew what to expect from it. So it wasn't really on the top of my list of like, oh man, I can't wait to see that. I was excited for it because I know it'll be good. I like Tom Hiddleston's Loki. He's one of the best, things in the MCU. But once I saw the trailer and actually got a feel for where they were going with it, Owen Wilson looked great in it. Got me really hyped for it. So I'm glad that it's getting bumped up just a couple days. It's going to be debuting on Wednesdays now, though, and not Fridays. Which, Rick, I got a question for you here, actually, before we actually start diving into these and getting everyone's thoughts on them, because you kind of heard me ramble on about everything for a minute. With them bringing this show off of the Friday date, because it was going to come out on June 11th, which was a Friday. Now, if you recall, Mandalorian was on Friday. WandaVision was on Friday. Falcon Winter Soldier was on Friday. Mandalorian Season 2 was on Friday. The Bad Batch is on Friday.
Yeah.
It's gonna be kind of weird, like not having the show on Friday. What do you think the reasoning for them moving it up is? Do you think it's gonna be weird? Like, what are your thoughts on that? Because it's kind of like a, I don't know, interesting that they moved it up like that.
I honestly have no idea. At first, I was like, maybe they did it because it's like mischievous, like on a Wednesday versus a Friday, Loki mischief, you know?
We're
Uh,
low key moving it up
yeah,
2 days.
yeah. I have no idea. It's a weird decision to decide Wednesdays of all days, but I mean, there's been other shows I've watched throughout time where it's like they come on every Thursday or every
Mhm.
Tuesday or whatever for the new episodes. So I don't think it's like weird or anything like that. They just chose a different day.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I think that makes it's gonna be weird as a view. Like I've come to expect my Friday mornings. You know what I mean? Or my,
Oh
for some
yeah,
people on the West Coast, like they can stay up till midnight because it comes on at midnight for them. Like, you
yeah.
know what I mean? Like, so
I
I've
mean,
just come to kind of like, Friday's the day. Like, it's Friday and like, a new episode of TV, like freaking Marvel show or a Star Wars show or whatever, and there it is. And like now it's Wednesday.
right.
So
And
it's kind of weird.
I don't think it's gonna affect the way anybody watches it or views it or anything like that, though.
No. Well, I think honestly, um, one of there were Disney had a lot of issues with like server load. And like my guess here, this is a complete guess. I have no idea, but there were people like who would stay up till midnight to watch it. For instance, on the West Coast, to watch any of these shows, they would get an error trying to watch it, and they'd have to like restart Disney Plus, and it would even force sign them out of the application, which would be a huge pain in the ass. So
Yeah,
they'd have to like, they just had some errors, and it was because there was so much traffic on the servers. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So
I get that. I mean,
yeah.
a lot of people wanting to watch it.
Right, so I think maybe them moving it to Wednesday will subdue that because Friday, Saturday, and Sunday would presumably be the most heavily trafficked days, you
This is
know?
true.
So, that's kinda my guess, I don't know if that's
It's an
exactly.
experiment maybe on their end just to see if
Yeah.
it changes anything.
Yeah, because I've heard some people think like, "Well, it's because Bad Batch is," like, dude, I don't care about the Bad Batch, dude.
No.
Like, that's a completely different thing. Like,
Right.
Bad Batch is a cartoon. A fraction of the people who are gonna watch Loki are watching the Bad Batch. It's not
Right.
that's not a one-to-one comparison. If they were gonna move anything because of that, they would just move Bad Batch on Wednesday. Like,
Yeah.
and they would let Loki keep the slot. Like, that's not a thing for there, so
Yeah, I think Loki would take precedence over Bad Batch.
yeah, and Bad Batch is good though. We're gonna,
It was
like I
pretty
said,
good.
our review's gonna come up here right after this here segment though. So, but John, you hear me ramble on for 10 minutes about all these topics here with Andrew Garfield coming, saying that he's not in it. He did say even though the comments were different in the second interview that I forgot where it was or I'd pull it up. He said no twice, but they were very different answers. Then the Doctor Strange stuff with WandaVision, and then this Loki release date coming sooner. You think it's weird it's not on Fridays? That gonna interrupt your work schedule and your work schedule? it's, the TV show would always interrupt your work schedule, I guess, like technically speaking. But what do you think of all this stuff?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna go take him backwards. Loki, uh, I liked it being on the weekend or the weekend-esque by having it on a Friday. My only guess at why they did this is that maybe Disney is planning on, because they have quite a bit of content in the pipeline, maybe they, instead of dropping everything on Fridays, maybe they're going to they're trying to branch out so that they can drop things at various days throughout the week so that all of their content isn't being dropped on one day. I mean, at some point we're going to reach the point where you have multiple series. You're going to have, probably a Star Wars series and a Marvel series running concurrently, and you don't want both those series dropping on Friday and people having to decide which one they're watching or first or whatever. So this may be their early attempts at trying to get people used to watching content on a different day.
Hey, that's a
Um,
good point I hadn't considered. Like maybe because
yeah,
they have so many Marvel shows and Star Wars shows planned. Maybe Wednesday will be the new
sure.
Marvel slot.
Yeah, and it may be, and there
Maybe.
may be other content for other franchises that aren't Marvel or Star Wars related. Maybe they're going to have new Disney shows coming out on Tuesdays or Mondays or Sundays. It could just be them diversifying the days at which they drop new content. Um, for me personally, I'm a little disappointed because I do have a ongoing commitment on Wednesdays throughout the summer, so my opportunity to watch Loki is going to be limited, so I'm going to have to, like, stay off the internet for 24 hours until I get a chance to watch it, most likely on Thursdays, so, that's a little frustrating. They're messing with my schedule there, but, we'll see how that goes. Um, the Doctor Strange stuff, I mean, again, Kevin Feige, a smart guy. Like, obviously, you don't bring Doctor Strange. Like, it would have been a cool cameo. It would have been fun, sure. But like you mentioned, it was WandaVision. It was Wanda and Vision's story. Like, Doctor Strange didn't need to be in there. Um, they were telling a specific story about these specific characters, and it wasn't just a here's the preface to the next Doctor Strange movie. It was here's these characters' actual story. The only other thing about that was you said the white men content or comment that Feige said, and like uh, part of me is just like I hear that and it's like my God, I guess this is the world we live in now. Like nobody will ever be able to say a single word ever again. You could literally go online and say the sky is blue today, and like somebody would be like, well, I don't live where you live and it's not blue, and that is, there's something wrong about that and we need to cancel you because of that or whatever. Like it's just like people, there are so many people nitpicking every little thing and like looking to get their 15 minutes of for fame, not because they're actually doing something that's helping make the world a better and more worthwhile place, but just because they caught somebody in a awkward statement or a phrase, misphrasing of a innocuous comment that they were trying to make. So, I just that kind of stuff just drives me nuts. And obviously Feige wasn't I don't think Feige was making a political point by saying that. He was just trying to reinforce the idea that story-wise, they did what was best for that particular story.
Mhm.
And then the last one, what was our first topic?
Andrew Garfield.
Andrew
Getting lost.
Garfield's denying it.
Andrew Garfield. Yeah, Andrew Garfield. Like, I will point out, it's so funny too. Like, Garfield said, I did not receive the call. I think I would have received the call by now. And the guy almost pointedly asked him, I think he even says, I only watched the first one. I didn't hear the second interview follow-up that he did apparently, but I watched the first one and the guy even says like, "Yeah, I know, I have to ask though. It's like the easiest yes or no question in the world. Are you in it or whatever?" And Garfield doesn't even answer with a yes or no. He says, "I didn't get the call. I would have gotten the call by now." Like, okay, did they email you? Like, I mean, like, there's the tiptoeing around the actual him just flat out saying no. Now, maybe he did flat out say no in the follow-up interview. It was just one of those things where, like, yeah, the dude did a great job of tiptoeing around the question and giving an answer that could be read one way and could be completely truthful, but also interpreted a completely different way and that isn't truthful. But so it's just it's a silly game that studios and actors and media are playing now. You have all the media that wants to be the one to, I want to break the scoop. I want the exclusive, spoiler thing. And then you got the studio and the actors trying to protect, which honestly, if we had never heard about Electro and we had never heard about Doc Ock and we had never heard about Andrew Garfield, and we had never heard about Tobey Maguire, and we had all just gone into this new Spider-Man movie, and these characters just start popping up, we'd be like, "Holy, what is going on?" Like, brains would be blown across movie theaters over the world because people were like, "Oh my god, what? That's Jamie Foxx. Where are you serious? Like Doc Ock, what is going on here?" So I it is what it is in this day and age. The internet has taken some of our joy out of movies, and actors and movie studios, I think, are fighting back in the ways that they can. That's not me saying I honestly think he's in it, and I think this is a big lie. I just if he is in it, the spoilers are it's already been spoiled for me. I'm not going to be as shocked as I would have been, and I also think that him saying what he said is kind of innocent and just a way for him to try and maintain some type of secrecy for the movie.
Right, and I think I found the other one. He did an interview, and he essentially just at the end of it says, like, "Never say never." Like,
Yeah.
he's just very different about, like, the thing. It's like, "Yeah, I never got a call," and he said something along the lines of, like, "I've heard all the rumors. It's a cool idea, blah, 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 but I've said previously, it's not something that I don't," and then he's like, "God, I hate being given the responsibility of disappointing people. But yeah, no, it's not something I've been asked about by Marvel Studios or anything like that. But, never say never." So, but
Okay.
that in contrast to the first one he did, where he was just like, he was very expressive about it. And like, I
Oh
received
yeah.
a call and he was like comparing it to like the werewolf game. Like, it was just a very, very different. So I see why people are like,
Right.
but either way.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, I do gotta say though, to your point about them like maybe showing up and like no one knowing about it, and like the reactions that we would have got, I don't see a world at all to where if these people are in it, like your Jamie Foxx, your Doc Ock, your Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, there is no world where that's not in the trailer because that's gonna get people so hype. Like people are gonna make it a point to go see the movie because they're in it. You know what I
That's the
mean?
thing, but that's the thing about I'll just play devil's advocate on that point, but that's the thing about these movies. Like, you telling me, like, you need to get people hyped to go see a Spider-Man MCU movie? Like,
True.
those movies are gonna make $150 to $200 million opening week well, pre-pandemic, those movies are making $150 to $200 million. If Spider-Man's fighting Turtle Boy in it, I mean, like, you
Oh
literally
boy.
could put the lamest, dumbest thing in there, but you put that Marvel tag on the front of it, you use the Tom Holland Spider-Man, and, like, that movie's making bank no matter what. Like, if anything, I would think at that point, the surprise of that would get word of mouth going and help the run maybe drag out longer than it normally would. Like, maybe you get some older fans who, people who grew up in the 90s with, uh, oh god, his name just left my head. The first Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
Mhm.
You get maybe some of those who now have families who don't traditionally go to the movies anymore, but they're like, "Man, I love Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. Maybe I'll go back for this one. Maybe I won't wait for video for this one. Maybe I do go back and see him." I mean, maybe that I almost feel like there's a counterpoint to the whole, like, it has to be in the trailer to get them into you save the surprise and the word of mouth pulls in more people that way. I don't know.
That's a fair point because, like, that's the other thing too. To play like devil's advocate to myself, like just like you were. There is something to be said to where if they somehow kept that a secret until the movie came out, the hour after the first showing, it'd be all over the freaking internet.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
and then that's when they would release the trailer with like actually showing them in it anyway. Because
Sure.
it's out there, and so now it's just like, well, if you weren't already excited for it, here's
Yeah.
the final trailer with like and then
Yeah.
boom. When you said Turtle Boy though, it reminded me of there was
I
a
actually think that
Spider-Man
was
villain.
Jimmy Olsen. I think that was Jimmy Olsen Superman series. I don't know why I crossed universes there, but
Well,
I just
there's
went
a
from
Spider-Man villain called Paste Pot
Paste
Pete,
Pot Pete. Yeah.
and he like shoots you with glue or some shit.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's the stupidest villain
Like,
in
it
the
could
world.
legit be Spider-Man against Paste Pot Pete, and I
Yeah.
guarantee that
Could you
movie still
imagine an
makes
MCU version
100
of that?
million.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
MCU version of Paste Pot Pete, man. It'd just be like Gorilla Glue Pete or
Yeah,
something,
bro.
or the
Gorilla
T-Rex
Glue
tape.
Berry.
Like,
Yeah.
oh man,
Oh, man.
oh god,
Eric
Good stuff.
Epoxy.
yeah, oh god. But yeah,
Uh,
there's some crazy stupid superheroes or villains out there, man. Turtle Boy and Paste Pot Pete. That's the crossover that I want to see. Turtle Boy and Paste Pot Pete rather. But yeah, I don't know. Regardless of the Spider-Man thing, I don't care if any of them's in it anyway. Like again, it comes down to just a good movie and a good story, dude. That's all I care
Yeah.
about. Good story, good characters. Andrew Garfield's my favorite Spider-Man, so I'd like to see him come back. But realistically,
Same.
I don't really care if he comes back for like a 2-second thing. That's just gonna like if he like jobs for the other Spider-Man. If these other Spider-Men are in it, I want them to kick ass. Like, I don't want them to come in and make Tom Holland look good. That's what I don't want. Like so, and like
Yeah.
that's it. So just please don't do that if they are in it.
Right.
It's fine. Anything else you do is cool, and I'd like to see him again. But it's almost kind of just like disappointing because we'll never get to see what could have been with the Garfield trilogy or whatever it was going to be. That Sinister Six movie that never happened, which I'm kind of glad it never happened with how they set it up. But
Yeah.
either way, but
Right.
all right. Well, guys, question is, what do you think about all this information here? Do you think Andrew Garfield is just playing coy? He's contractually obligated not to say anything. So, and even if he could say anything, would he say anything? Just doing one of those. What do you think about the Doctor Strange actually was in the initial drafts of WandaVision and was sending the commercials into her? Kind of interesting. I don't really did. It obviously worked without him, as you can see. The series, I mean, did pretty damn well on its own. And then Loki getting moved up to Wednesday. How's that going to affect your day? You looking forward to it? I think John made a really good point with that. They're going to be having these shows probably run concurrent at some point. So it's just kind of in their best interest to just start early. Start getting like everybody used to. Okay, Wednesday will be Marvel Day. Friday's the Star Wars Day. Whatever it is. But what do you think about it all? Let us know down in the comment section below. All right, guys. So our final topic here is going to be this brief spoiler warning because we're going to obviously be talking about Bad Batch episode 1 and 2. So we will. Well, I don't really contend there's much to spoil, because it's more of a. It's not really like a plot twisty kind of show. There are a couple appearances, I guess, that do happen that maybe you don't want to know about, but they're not like long concurrent things. They're there and then they're gone. They're not parts of the actual plot or anything. So, but nevertheless, there's your spoiler warning for Bad Batch episode 1 and 2. So we're gonna get into that now. But off the top, I do have one thing that we have to talk about because we're talking about Star Wars. So recently, and then not too long ago, Bob Chapek had kind of it was probably like within the last month or so. Bob Chapek, who's the new CEO of Disney, he used to be in charge of just Disney parks and everything. Not just Disney parks. That's a pretty damn big job. But recently, Bob Iger has stepped down from CEO and is still just chairman of the board. So Bob Chapek has now taken over the CEO responsibilities. But he recently teased like this like realistic lightsaber. He dubbed it, and like just not that it would cut through people or anything, but it would just, man, I don't know what the best word for this was. I was about to say erect. And I don't really want to say that,
It's
but
not
now,
telescope.
yeah, erect out of it. What's it going to come at? It's,
Manifests.
yeah, it's going to, because we got retract. What's the opposite of retract? You know what I mean? Because it retracts into it.
I have no
Does it-
idea.
'cause if I
Extend.
extend, yeah, extends out of it. I guess that works. Yeah,
The blade manifests out of nowhere.
yeah. Either way, here I'll play the video, and then you'll know what I'm talking about. So, just as the other day, they actually, because this was just kind of all in concept. He apparently played a very similar video of this to like shareholders, and like we just got like the secondhand information about it. But now there's actual footage of this lightsaber thing. So I'm gonna play it because it is pretty awesome. Like, as someone who collects lightsabers, like this is pretty dope. Like, look at that. That's cool, man.
That is
like,
cool.
Like that's really
awesome.
good.
Makes you wonder how they're gonna do it. They were talking about it's got the same sort of technology employed as like tape measures, the way they like extend.
Yeah, like it just like shoots. The thing is though, and as you can kind of
Where's
tell,
the blade come from?
well, I imagine it's honestly very similar to how the cheap ones that you whip out, like, you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
feel like it's the same way, but they just have like a mechanized system that just has it shoot
There's
out.
a motor.
Yeah, like a
There's
motor.
schematic drawings of it on online that you can look up. That kind of like almost like patent drawings.
Yeah.
That kind of explain how it works. But
Well, the
So
only
you think
thing,
it's going to be ridged like the ones that you buy at the store with like
I don't
a,
think
a
it's going to be
bigger?
ridged.
Yeah,
I
it
do.
looks like a solid.
That's just because the light's so
solid.
bright.
Okay.
Like, because otherwise, how could something the same size retract into some? You know what I mean? There has to be smaller shapes that come out of it to extend to that length.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can't be one solid, because then it would, if it was one solid object, like if you had a tube, it wouldn't be able to become 3 feet longer than the one. So it would have to be just fractionally smaller to where it could fit down inside of the other one. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The hilt's huge.
Like a cup stacking into a cup, into a cup, into a cup, you know.
The hilt's like over a foot
Well,
long.
that's what I was gonna say. The only thing that's kind of a detractor for this system, though, is that the hilts are no longer gonna be to scale. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because my main concern with it before was, okay, they're gonna have this thing cool, but like, how's it gonna look? But at least it looks like it looks like a NeoPixel lightsaber. Like,
Yeah.
I have reviews of them up on the channel, but like the way it goes normally is you have this like NeoPixel blade, and this whole blade has an LED strip in it. Like it has two technically, because like there's an LED strip going up the entire thing with the lights on both sides. So when it lights up, it looks super bright, like way light years beyond, no pun intended, but light years beyond like anything that Disney's ever even made for their own property, like lighting wise. But this looks like it is the same concept of a NeoPixel blade. It looks like it's as bright as a NeoPixel, but it has the ability to retract up. But in order for it to like actually come out of it, it wouldn't have to be as thick of a material as those cheap ones that shoot out to where you can like noticeably tell like they get very pointy towards the end and they're really thick towards the bottom. Everything I talk about with this just sounds like I'm talking about a dick, man.
Hmm.
Like erects out and it's bigger and then it comes out at the bottom. Like, god damn it, it's so stupid. Either way, because if they used a completely clear material, like a very clear plastic, the LED coming out of it would just, you wouldn't even see it when the light's on. You know what I mean? It's my guess.
I'm sure there are psychologists out there that would claim that a lightsaber is just a psychological manifestation of
Of a dick.
of a phallus anyway. It's a phallic symbol in the subconscious of
It's true.
I'm sure out there, but yeah. No,
Yeah.
the lightsaber looks dope, man. I was
I'm
hoping that
interested.
it's not. I hope that it's not just a telescopic blade, that they've figured out some way to get that blade to like I don't even know if there's a way to inflate the blade, if they have like a malleable plastic that is able to inflate as it extends, and maintain the same diameter, the length of the blade. You know, I mean, it's uh, if it was simply just a telescopic blade, I have a hard time believing that it would have taken them this long to bring it to, because that concept is a fairly straightforward concept. I mean, it's maybe the production of it, of actually producing one that's that infinitesimally small in terms of size difference would be challenging, but I still don't think it's that challenging to the point where it would have taken this long.
Still
So
sounds
we'll
like we're
see.
talking about dicks. um my worry with it though, goddamn, what was I gonna say? The hilt's too big though. That's the problem. Oh, the cost. My thing is, if it's anything other than like something more along the lines of a simple technology, then this thing's gonna be incredibly expensive. You know what I mean? If they had to
Yeah.
develop some like some self-expanding plastic or something that comes up, like I just feel like how much this thing gonna cost, man? Like, you know, because it's already motorized to some degree, like, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, damn, dude, because they're really cool and I'd love to have one. I just hope they're decently priced and they like fit better in your hand, because that is a Graflex lightsaber. She's supposed to be Rey. A Graflex lightsaber is like it's tiny. It's half the size of that. And
Yeah.
that's like as big as Darth Maul's lightsaber almost. And it's just a single blade. I mean,
Yeah, but if this is a new technology, you have to think about the lightsabers that were out 20 years ago and like the advancements that have been made. Like this is the first of a new technology. Like give it 5 years and they might have that blade down to half the size. So
true.
Yeah.
I mean,
True.
yeah, look at phones, I guess, right? Everything just
yeah.
continues to get smaller. Still
Yeah.
sounds like we're talking about dick, though. I'm just
Mhm.
saying. All right, let's get in. Let's finish this show up here with the Bad Batch. So, John, you still haven't watched it, correct?
No, correct.
Okay, well, there's not really, like I said, there's really not too. There's nothing that I
Not
would
much
consider
to
a
it.
spoiler. Like,
Yeah.
there's like stuff in it that you're like, if I told you what like a spoiler is, you'll just be like, oh, cool, that's like cool. Now I have more of a reason to want to watch it, I guess, more so than anything. Because
Yeah.
Rick, you told me something that I wasn't even like, I hadn't done any research into it really. I just watched the show blind, and like you told me that the little kid in the beginning was supposed to be Kanan Jarrus as a
Yeah.
kid.
Yeah. When he was Caleb Doom.
Yeah. So like, and I didn't even catch that watching it. Like, cause like his OG name completely slipped my mind. Like, it's been so long since I watched Rebels. Kanan's not like one of my favorite characters.
No.
I liked him in the show. So like, I could, when they said like the kid's name and the thing like that, I had completely over my head.
Right.
So that was kind of cool to see. So like, obviously the show starts with damn, I even forget how it like completely starts out, but in the closer beginning of the act, like beginning, like opening scene kind of thing, there's a bunch of clone troopers. You know, they're on like a planet with a Jedi. Because remember, in Attack of the Clones or in the Clone Wars, there's always a battalion of clones led by a Jedi as like the general. So they were there. You know, I don't know what planet they were on. I don't even know if it actually said what it was. But there's like a quick montage of like some clone stuff happening, and then you land on the planet there with Kanan and his master there, and you see Order 66 happen from that perspective. And then, like, just before that happened, though, like, little Kanan came running down the woods because they needed some help, and like the reinforcements were on their way, and like whatever. And that's when the Bad Batch come in, and they come in and just lay waste to
Yeah.
this whole battalion of the droid army. You know, just these 5 dudes come in and wreck shop.
They do.
And it was cool. It was good. And like I will say, like I'll just to kind of speak to my point earlier. Like there's a little kid and like there's the girl. I forget what the Jedi Master's
don't
name
remember.
was. But to my point that I said earlier about the scenery, like I'm trying to get like a good landscape shot. As you can see here, John, I don't know if you can see this on the screen right now, but like you can see, like we said off the top, they're all very different body size wise. Like,
Yeah.
so I'm curious. The thing is too, and as you see, Echo is this guy right here, which is who's up for
Mhm.
pre-order right now on Hot
Yeah.
Toys website. He is not pale like that on the figure.
He is.
Is he?
Yeah.
I thought he had regular skin. Who am I looking at then?
No, he's definitely pale. They
Dude,
made him like look like kind of gaunt and
I'm gonna look it up because I don't
malnourished.
remember it. Echo Hot Toys. I don't remember him being that pale. I just remember it looking like dude. Yeah, he's not. He is not pale,
but
at
it's
all.
paler than the. Look at his face.
Dude, he's almost more tan than me. Dude, you're
He
more
doesn't
pale
look-
than
it's-
him.
It's not the same complexion as
Dude,
Hunter.
you are more pale than he is. Okay? You are more
I'm also
pale.
not from New Zealand though. I'm not Maori.
Bro, it's in the show. He's a pale. He's a ghost, man.
Yeah.
Like that is not the same. That is completely like no. They did not. That is not correct. They need to
Such
fix
a
that.
weird figure to open it up on.
That is like ooh. This is making me not want to buy the figure at this point. Like look at that. I'm gonna have to
Look
buy
at the
this
picture of
and
his head
paint
only
this
though. It
myself.
looks noticeably paler, I think, than that other picture.
It looks paler, but like look at that right there.
Spoiler alert, we're seeing all kinds of stuff that we haven't seen yet.
For what?
Like the arm, like they don't show that yet.
Oh well, who cares?
I mean, it's stupid little things.
Yeah, who cares about that? He's a cyborg. I mean, at this point, they even say that in that thing. He's like, "You're more machine than man now, anyway." But yeah, Hunter does have like longer hair though. Like I'll give it that. They did that. Like okay, paint doesn't look great though on the face, but we'll see later on. Yeah, dude, that's not the right paleness in any way, shape, or form. He's still very tan.
Is it possible it's just a lighting issue?
I don't think so, because like just look at the different like.
I mean,
this-
he's super pale. He's super pale right there in that shot. I'm also like, you know, not having watched the show, not knowing about anything about this character. I'm also wondering if that isn't a stylistic design choice for the show to differentiate him even more. So, like, if they're trying to give visual cues, and that, you know, with the Hot Toys toy, they're giving their own interpretation, more realistic interpretation. Like he looks almost like Walking Dead pale in the show clip there.
Yeah,
Or in the show
exactly. Yeah.
still.
Well, that's the thing in the show as part of his character. Like he pretty much did die, and the only reason he's alive is because he's literally a cyborg at this point. He is more machine than man. So
Yeah.
it makes sense for his character
What a
to
way to
not
live.
have like proper blood flow anymore to be like he would be pale like that.
Yeah.
You don't see that happen. It's just talked about. But yeah, like I think kind of like with what you're saying, but I think the opposite. I think maybe you were meaning this. Well, no, because you said stylistic for the show. I think I don't remember. But I
Yeah,
think,
for the show to differentiate. Like when you're watching the show, when you're watching a show, you want to give people easy visual cues of which character is which. And so if they make him overly pale compared to the other characters, as soon as he's in a scene or something, you identify who that character is right away.
right.
Especially since they're all troopers and they all have generally the same type of armor, the same color scheme of armor, that helmet being off is a visual, that paleness is a visual cue immediately about that character.
Well, yeah. So is
He's pale,
so
yeah.
is the things on his ear that look like the
Oh, yeah.
what's his name the things on Bespin Lobot.
Lobot.
He looks like Lobot. But I think if anything, it's the opposite. I think Hot Toys took liberty to make it look a little more realistically pale.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like instead of making him look like Pennywise white, they like took the liberty to say, okay, we'll make it a little bit more pale, but more of a realistic pale than
Yeah.
white ghost pale. So I think
Yeah.
whereas I totally see what you're saying, it's a show and like an all animation, they
Well, and
over exaggerate everything.
That's what I was trying to get at. Like you went to one extreme for the show, and then Hot Toys went to a different extreme for the character to make it look more realistic in line with the other characters are
Right.
doing.
In the end, I want him to be ghost pale. He's supposed to be ghost pale, make him ghost pale. You know what I mean? That's my only thing.
We just spent 10 minutes talking about the freaking skin color.
It's true
of an
though,
action
dude.
figure.
Yeah, you're the one who is like all worried about Ezra having blue eyes or whatever, green eyes.
That I want
you know,
things to look like the way they're supposed
okay,
to.
so do I, Rick. So do I.
This is an action figure.
Yeah, but the action figure I'm actually going to own and spend money on. You're gonna like probably not even watch the thing with Ezra in it when it happens. Why do you care? Well, what do you care? You're just gonna watch something. I'm gonna spend money on this.
I spend money on Disney Plus.
Fucking $6. You spend more on food every day. Like, come on, dude. That's not the same thing. It's $300. I want it to look correct. It needs to look right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is a matter of principle. You can't make these kind of mistakes and expect people to spend $300. Like, no. You're gonna do what you gotta do it right. Do it right. Like he's a very pale person. Make him pale.
Let's talk about the show.
The show's good. The show's good. It's real good. It's real good. You know, it is actually pretty good though.
That's pretty good.
I'm not like I've said before, I'm not like the biggest fan of like the Clone Wars stuff from like just like the animated show. It has its valleys, right? Like it has some really
it answers
really
a lot of questions the movies didn't.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it fills in gaps, but again, you run the classic trope of is it even canon?
Yeah,
Do you know? Like that's the only thing that ever annoys me about how they do things anymore. But this is a good departure from like the previous iterations. It feels a lot more, I don't know, like fulfilling in a lot of ways. Like there were like these first 2 episodes. Like, granted, this is just 2 episodes. I have no idea how long this thing is going to run, but I wasn't bored with either episode. I felt like they both had a purpose. Like when I was talking about filler, like earlier, the second episode, even though it wasn't anything like crazy that happened like the first episode, there was a lot of character development in the second episode.
There was. I definitely considered it more of a filler episode, but I mean, there was definitely redeeming qualities like the character development.
Yeah, I mean, all the stuff with Omega and like the family that he was going to leave her with, and like but she didn't, and she ended up not doing all like those character growth for Hunter. No, he was like fine.
Yeah, but like, it's just like I don't know. Maybe they're so used to danger that it's not like that risk doesn't really matter too much to them.
Yeah, but then like I thought it was really good, and like even without like you didn't really even need the whole Kanan thing in there because like dude, I didn't even realize it was Kanan. Like
Yeah.
so like that like him making an appearance and a Jedi even being in there, like I don't care.
I knew
It
from the
happened.
first 30 seconds of the show, I was like, this crosshair dude's a villain. You could hear it in
That's
his
actually
voice.
the one thing that bummed me out. I wanted that to be something. I wanted him to get reprogrammed, but I wanted them to nip that in the butt because I didn't want them to be broken up this early.
Right. That's like a main character that they just took out.
And that's the thing too with it is like this is just kind of a personal thing more than anything though, but like sniper rifles are my favorite guns when I play games. So like I related to the sniper.
Right.
I was like,
You
this
just
is what
wanted
I
to
would be
join the
doing.
Empire.
Yeah, like I was like, this is exactly what I'd be doing. Like I would be him. He's up there, he's just taking fools out. Like he's the dude. He's the guy. You always can count on him. You know what I mean?
Well,
And then he's fucking gone. Like
the thing that I thought was weird too is like Tarkin being in it so much because you got to think from A New Hope when you see Tarkin, think of all the stuff he's seen prior to that, and it's just like live action Bad Batch sort of thing, I guess. But I don't know.
yeah,
like-
I liked that they threw Tarkin in, even
I
though it was
do.
kind of could have been anybody, could have been any Imperial officer, and it would have been fine.
Yeah, like a notable one.
Yeah, but no, it could have been a nobody. It wouldn't have mattered who it was.
Yeah.
Like the fact that it was Tarkin didn't make like what he did any better or worse. You know, like
Well, Thrawn was doing his thing during this time period too.
yeah, and that's the thing. I would have I liked that it was Tarkin because of kind of what you were getting at in some ways, but we didn't really see Tarkin all that much in all reality.
No,
Like he
Rogue
was in
One
Rogue One for a little bit, but he just kind of talked.
Yeah,
You know, we didn't really see like he's this Grand Moff, and we know like what it takes to become a Grand Moff only on paper. We've never really seen anybody's actual achievements
Tarkin
visualized. To what?
Tarkin movie incoming.
Yeah, right. But we haven't really seen anyone's like evolution, like going through the ranks of the Empire on screen. Like,
No.
so them like kind of going back and like throwing Tarkin into a situation like this where he's like really overexerting his like power and flopping his thing on the table, going back to the dicks, flopping his on the table and saying like, yo, dude, this is what's happening. This is the Empire now.
Yeah.
Like, this is what it is. I will say though, it is kind of confusing because one question that like I've always had since the prequels and the clones were introduced and all that stuff. I mean, I think everybody's initial question was like, oh, so are all the stormtroopers just clones then? And we later learned that that's not the case anymore. But we
No.
never really knew of a reason as to like, well, what made them not keep doing the clones?
It's expensive.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to. You find out that it's literally a pretty much a cost efficiency thing, which
Because
I
the
don't-
clones are
I
way
don't
better
know.
than stormtroopers.
that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if that's a good excuse. I think it's a really big mistake for the Empire to stop using the clones. Like, because that's what Tarkin's there for. He's like to assess the value of the clone army. But and the whole time I'm sitting there just like, what do you mean? Did you watch the prequels, Tarkin? You saw the clone army in action.
Right.
You literally you can see the clone army right now. You're using the clone army to take down the fucking Jedi Order. And
Right.
you're questioning whether or not that's worth it. You know what I mean? Because I'm pretty much thinking that the downfall of the Empire at this point was fucking Tarkin discontinuing the clones.
Yeah, literally.
Like, because then you go from like
Clones effectively took out all the Jedi. Almost.
yeah, and then you go into A New Hope with all these stormtroopers who can't hit anything.
They're like
They literally miss
cannon
every
fodder,
shot
like,
they take.
They're horrible.
Yeah, you know Wayne Gretzky is like you miss every shot you don't take. That's literally a fucking stormtrooper. But they miss every shot they do take.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like you really want to tell me that you didn't find the value in the clone army? Get out of here. That's so like honestly, that is like such a stupid plot line when you think about it. Like you gotta be looking at it like how I am, very cynically, obviously, but it's kind of questionable.
Right.
I don't have a lot to add to this conversation because not having seen it, but I just threw a meme in Discord that is appropriate for what you guys are talking about right now that made me chuckle.
Let me see.
Let's take a look.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. This is like exactly what I'm talking about. What it is.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like, of course, man. May the 4th be with you. It's May 5th. Damn, I missed it. Dang. Like, it's
Today's
exactly
the
it.
8th, isn't it?
Clever
technically
stuff.
May
It was
8th,
it was a
when-
couple days old now, but
Yeah.
Well, today's the 8th though, and somebody online said that it's Mace Windu Day because it's like May 8th. May 8th.
oh
So it'd be
wow,
Windu.
Maith.
okay,
Yeah, Maith Windu.
May
7th was I Am the 7th.
Was it Mike Tyson the one who said that?
Yeah.
Maith
Maith
Windu?
Windu.
Don't kick my ass, Mike. You're
Yeah.
great. You're good. Maith Windu.
You could knock my head off my body.
Oh yeah, for sure. But another thing too, I do like about the show, honestly, because kind of with what you were getting at, John, like them all kind of looking the same and them using like visual cues to differentiate them. They did a very good
Yeah.
job. They all have very unique personalities. Like they really dive into the fact as to like what makes them different than the other clones. That is perfectly clear and like answered immediately. You know exactly why they're different. They display like their prowess as to like what their DNA being altered
Yeah.
like did for them. Like you see it all happen. So like their like little origin story that you get, I think all works out well. Because going into the show, I thought it was just I didn't really know what they were gonna do with it. And I thought, oh, is this just gonna be like, pretty much just 5 clones whose inhibitor chips just didn't work? So they didn't get Order 66? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's really not the case at all. Like these guys like literally were pretty much experiments by the what are their names? Camoans.
Camoans. I think that's
Is Camoans or Camoians? I can't remember which one. Caminoans, rather.
Yeah, Camoan.
They're on Camino, and they're the guys who make the clones. Caminos, Caminoans. I think they call them Camoans.
I think they do. They say it at one point in the show.
Yeah, I think I'm remembering Obi-Wan saying Camoans. I don't know. Who knows? Either way, but they perfectly explain like why that they did the experiments on them for them. Well, they actually didn't say why they did the experiments on them, but they explained that they are essentially experimental clones.
Right.
Like they genetically altered their DNA to make one more superior at doing this, one more superior at doing this, and what have you. So, and then like spoiler alert though, the only thing that is kind of a spoiler, but it's done in the first episode of the show, and Rick already kind of went on it. The sniper guy who's called Crosshair, apparently like his inhibitor chip wasn't 100% like malfunctioned, so they were able to like Tarkin was able to actually go in and like somehow turn it back on, essentially like overcharge it. So he is like 100% Empire freaking sharpshooter sniper bad guy now.
As soon as I heard him talk, I was like, something's
Yeah, I mean, the whole time he's just like such a dick. Like he's wanting to kill Kanan. He's not questioning anything.
No, he
like,
just wants to kill him.
Because like none of them have the inhibitor chips on. Order 66 happens, and they're all just like, well, what the hell's going on?
A good soldier follows orders.
Yeah, and he's just like, we follow orders. I'm like, ugh.
He talks like a snake.
He does talk like a snake. But it did bum me out though, because I knew they were going to make him be a bad guy, and I was like, man, I don't want to see them break up, because like it's like breaking up after a band released their first album. It's like, but I never got a chance to even see them. Like, you know what I mean? Like I never really got a chance to see the whole squad in action and get to like know them all together. And now Crosshair's gone. So like
it's okay. I think Tech's my favorite.
I like Tech. He's cool, man.
He wears glasses. I wear glasses.
Yeah. No, he's cool. He's really cocky. He's a smart ass, and I love it.
Yeah, but he's not like a dick.
No, yeah. He's just so smart. He like doesn't say things all the time because he just assumes that you would understand. Like the inhibitor chip thing, there's like a line in there where like he already knew about the inhibitor chips and knew they were a thing, and like they were talking about how the regs were being controlled, and he never said that there was an inhibitor chip on there because he just assumed that everyone else would know what he was talking about, because he explicitly says like, well, how else would you think they would be controlled? Like,
yeah, he says literally like that exactly.
Yeah, so it's like he just says stuff like that where I think it's really funny. So that's the thing too, like they all have very unique different personalities, which I really like. They all have really unique different appearances, like with or without the armor on. They all look really cool.
Yeah.
Like I really like their character designs and everything. They all have different like character motivations. Like all the characters like stuff is actually good with them, like which really caught me by surprise.
Yeah.
Like in all honesty, because not that like I said, like not that I disliked anything with the Clone Wars or anything, but there were an infinite amount of episodes that really just did nothing for the characters. Like they're just like throwaway episodes. But this still could very well have that, but it doesn't like they weren't in these first 2 episodes. Like they were both good. The
Yeah.
first one was better than the second one, but I still like the second one a lot. And I do love that, speaking of New Zealand and New Zealanders, they gave Omega like the thickest New
Oh
Zealand
gosh. Yeah.
accent,
Omega.
and it's awesome. I love that they did it 'cause it's so funny hearing it's like the way she like the things that she says, like it comes across so much better with that accent. I don't know why. I love the New Zealand accent. Like
Yeah.
that and Scottish, I think are like the coolest accents, man.
Right.
Like they just sound so cool. So I'm looking forward to actually seeing where they go with the show.
Yeah.
Because because I don't want to go through like everything that happened because there is some stuff that like I still kind of have questions about with like where
Sure.
it's going. Like I don't really know where they're going with everything, which I like. But I don't know. I obviously think that like I guess that's a good question, Rick. Where do you think the show's actually going from here?
I don't know. They're just kind of following up with like what happens to the clones and answering the question of like where did the clones go after Order 66 and all that. And I think kind of patching up some loose ends that we didn't really know about because there's a vastly large amount of people out there that think stormtroopers are clones and they're not because they look similar,
Yeah.
But stormtroopers are just citizens basically that are taken from their planets or whatever by this evil empire that, you know, uh they raise them to be soldiers, but the clones are born and raised and bred. And I thought it was cool that what's his name had a brief appearance. Forrest Whitaker's character, what's his name? Saw
Oh yeah,
Gerrera.
Saul Guerrero shows up. Yeah,
Yeah,
he was like right here. Very young Saul Guerrero.
yeah. It's like I guess this is like the beginning of the rebels right here, basically.
Yeah. That's the thing that I hope they focus a lot on the evolution of the transition,
Yeah,
like from the Republic to the Empire.
and that's what I think they're kind of doing.
Yes, I hope that it like focuses more on like the world of Star Wars because like on episode 2 when they go to I forget the name of the defected clone when they
Yeah,
go to his house
cut.
is his name Cut.
Yeah,
Well, you get to see like the transition and how it's affecting the people on that planet now that the Empire is in control. Like
mhm.
they have like they're confiscating ships and registering them. Everybody has to get
Chain
chain
codes.
codes like for like their you like you have to be registered. Like if you don't get registered, you're not allowed transport on or off the planet. Like it's just showing you how it affects everybody like else. Like and that's something that like we really haven't been able to see in any Star Wars anything because like when we start the original trilogy, the Empire's just there.
Yeah,
And then when you start the sequel trilogy, the First Order is just there. You have no explanation as to like who, what, when, where, and why. They're just there. And then the same kind of scenario happens with the prequels. Really, it was like the kind of the closest look we got over anything, but all we saw was the fall. We saw the fall of the Republic. We never actually saw Order 66 get executed. Like, it was just like a quick thing and then it was over. Like, we didn't see how that actually affected everybody. Like, well,
right.
how did that affect this random encampment, this random planet over yonder? What happened to all the clones? Like, so I really hope it focuses more on the overarching, like, story, like the big picture, and not just like the Bad Batch by themselves, because
Yeah,
that'll wrap up real quick, I feel like. And
sure.
so if they focus it more on, like, them going out throughout the galaxy, and then you see kinda, like you see how the Empire and their rule is affecting everybody else through their eyes, as opposed to this just kinda one-shot story with them, and then, the bad guy Crosshair now is gonna come in and just be hunting them, and then it's over.
Hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? So I
Yeah,
hope there's just a lot more big picture stuff than
we'll have to wait and
just
see.
small things, yeah. But John, you heard us talk about this. Is there anything that kinda catches your interest? You plan on watching it soon? What are your kind of thoughts on it as someone who hasn't watched the series yet? You haven't finished Clone Wars yet either, so where's your head at with it?
No. Yeah, I mean, it sounds interesting. I think I'm more interested in finishing Clone Wars first, based on what you guys have said about it. Um, I just got into season 2 of Clone Wars and all. For me personally, I feel like season 2 is a market improvement on Clone Wars. I've always heard good things about Clone Wars, but the first season was a little bit of a slog just with how much filler episodes there were for that. Um,
Mhm.
but it's Star Wars, so like even a slog to get through some of that isn't terrible. And season 2 is been markedly improved for Clone Wars. So although there's also like 8 seasons of Clone Wars to get through versus just starting with this and picking up here. So I may just jump into this. We'll see.
Personally, as someone who has watched most of Clone Wars, I would recommend watching this. Out of the first like hour and a half worth of this, I found it kind of more compelling and interesting than my first dive into Clone Wars, in all honesty.
Yeah.
Like, not that like there's anything like there's a lot of like I said before, Clone Wars has a lot of hills and valleys, man. The highs are very high, the lows are like, why am I wasting my time with this? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Where like at least so far it's early, but I haven't felt that way with this.
No, I
Like,
haven't
and it's,
either.
so I would definitely, if you haven't watched it, that would be my ultimate recommendation to be like, if you like Star Wars, I'm sure you probably already have watched it, but we do have people like John here who like Star Wars an awful lot who hasn't watched it yet. So if you're like John, I'd say go ahead and watch it. Like,
Yeah.
if you're hesitant at all, maybe if you're waiting for there to be a full season of it so you can binge it, that's fine. But 'cause I really don't think there's anything like WandaVision where you're going to be like spoiled on anything, and you're like your life's going to be ruined because of you got spoiled. Like, it's a prequel kind of story, so there's really not much to spoil, So,
Yeah.
but nevertheless, that's go watch it if you haven't watched it. But I think we're going to wrap it up here, guys. Rick, where can everybody find you online?
Sir Rick Metz. Follow me on Instagram.
Good
my
deal.
little shout out to myself.
Is that your shout out to yourself?
Yeah.
It's okay.
Shameless plug.
Well, I did ask you where to find you,
This
so
is
it
true.
wasn't shameless at all. You were answering a question.
This is true. This is true.
John, where can everybody find you? Why don't you plug yourself, John?
God, that sounds awful.
We're back to the dicks, man.
Nightwing _K. Most of the content's family friendly, I promise.
Until
Nightwing
now.
_K on Twitter and Instagram. You can find me at there.
All right. You can simply follow me here at Sir Rob Bifo. And do not forget, guys, you can always submit topics and questions to us by emailing us at honestanduneducated@gmail.com. That's honestanduneducated@gmail.com. You can submit the topics and anything you want us to cover on the show itself. And if, it's appropriate for the show, and if it's, something that we would normally cover, we will surely cover it. So send us emails that way. And do not forget, every Wednesday, the Collectible reviews go live on the channel here. Most recently, I did the Sideshow 6-scale Han Solo and Carbonite. It's a pretty cool little piece there. It has some issues, but it's like, all in all, I think it's a pretty cool piece to have. So go and check that out on the channel there. Haven't decided what the next one's going to be, but stay tuned. Next Wednesday, it will be up. And then lastly, if you don't always have time to watch the show here on YouTube, you can also watch it in podcast form or listen to it in podcast form. So just search Honest and Uneducated on your podcast platform of choice, and it will be there. So follow the podcast, do all that stuff, like and subscribe to the channel if you like the content and you want to see more. Do all those good things that YouTube likes. And but until next time, guys, take care.